I'd like to welcome each of you this morning, and for the sales training, I'd like to introduce you to Warren Wexler. Warren started the sales in 1987. He has 27 years of sales and management experience. He also has a best-selling book. He mainly works with manufacturers and distributors, which is right up our alley. And he has clients all over the United States. It ranges from small clients to Fortune 500 people. And this program has been tailored to Harper brush. So it's not like one of those where you go to a sales training and you're looking at pacemakers and then you leave wondering how can I apply that to Harper brush. So we think you're going to get we know you're going to get a lot out of this. We don't think so. And again, so without further ado, Warren Wexler.
Thanks a lot, Jerry. Really happy to be here, everybody. And thanks for driving from however far you came, whether it's Batavia, Iowa, which is about, what, 10 miles, 12 miles away, and Sarasota, Florida, which is, what, 1,200 miles away. Did you drive that in one day? No, 2 days.
2 days.
2 days. I just was in Dallas, Texas. We left. My family never travels with me. And this last trip, it was spring vacation. So I said, okay, let's all go to Dallas. And I probably should have looked at the map more closely before I said, let's all go to Dallas. I thought it was about 600 miles from here to Dallas. No, it's 803 miles from here to Dallas. So we left at 5 in the morning and drove straight through and got to Dallas and then came back the same way 5 days later. Whew, minivans are kind of comfortable though. Get everybody piled in there, they all have their own seats, so things work out well. Okay, I am really happy to be here, and you're probably wondering, who is this guy? What does he know about sales or sales training? Some of you have heard me speak before when I was here at Harper in October, but for a couple of you, you're brand new to me, I'm brand new to you, right? So just want to share a little bit of my own background. My experience has been an entire career spent in the sales and or sales management aspect of business. Not done anything in operations or financial management. It's only been working with salespeople selling products and services. That's been my whole career. And so what I understand about the sales business is that a lot of people are trained in what's called the go-get-em model, meaning that you get hired by a great company, Harper Manufacturing, Harper Brushworks, and they say, you're going to be a great distributor, we've got fabulous products, 100 years of track record, you name it, they fill you in with all the details, and then when it's time to go out and sell stuff, what do they say to you? Go get them. And you say, well, now what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to call on? What am I supposed to say? How do I introduce myself? How do I ask the right questions to uncover needs? How do I present my product most efficiently? How do I ask for the order? When am I supposed to go back? How do I manage my inventory? And you find out that you didn't know a whole lot about that. You knew about the different bristles and different sizes and different applications, but you really didn't know anything about what you were supposed to do as a salesperson. That was the way I was trained when I was a brand new salesperson. I got hired by a very large manufacturer distributor in Cleveland, Ohio called the George Worthington Company. We had 50,000 SKUs that we could sell to our hardware, industrial, and contractor supply segments of our business. And I literally spent 18 months in the sales training program without anybody ever telling me anything about what a salesperson did. So when I got out in the field, I had great product knowledge, but I didn't have a clue as to what I should be doing on the first Monday when I was in my territory. Unfortunately, that's the way so many of us are trained, and what I decided to do was teach myself what I was supposed to be doing as a salesperson. And slowly, over time, I learned a lot of the things we're going to talk about today. And my sales went from the bottom of the company I was working with, actually my territory was 73rd out of 75 territories in the region that I was in. And over the next 19 months, I took that territory up to number 3 in the company. And basically, using the same things we're going to talk about today is how I did it. What happened after that is my manager, the VP of sales, came into my office one day and said, Warren, congratulations, we're going to give you a promotion. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? And he said, we want you to be the sales manager. So where do you think my sales manager training was headed? Go get them. So I had no clue as to what a sales manager did. I thought you just drove around in the company car and bought a lot of people breakfast and lunch, and that's what you did. And by magic, their sales would go up. And do you think that worked? No, that didn't work either. So what I had to figure out was a way to teach the people what I knew in a very systemized, organized way so that they could understand what they were supposed to be doing every day, and I could follow up on a regular basis and see how they were doing. And indeed, that's what happened. I took these 14 territories I was assigned, which, by the way, were the 14 worst territories in the region. They decided, because I started with a territory that was 73rd out of 75, instead of giving me a geography, they just lopped off the bottom 14 territories, and those are mine. So I traveled Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, if I didn't say that, and Pennsylvania, and upstate New York. So I was pretty spread out as far as where I had to cover. And to make a long story short, those territories went from the bottom 14 up into the top third of the company. Basically, that's what I'm going to share with you over the next day, starting today, is all the things that I've learned over a career now that has spanned 27 years. And by the way, just for the last, let's see, 87, for the last, is that 15 years? Oh my goodness. For the last 15 years, I've been doing this stand-up type sales training all over the country. But after I left the distribution business, I did that same type of start from scratch, become a good salesperson, go into management, and then either move away or get fired or quit or whatever. So I did that 3 different times before I started this company. So I've got a track record in 4 different industries working with other people's products that I could start from scratch, figure it out, teach other people, and then move on. And now for the last 15 years, I've been doing this on a full-time basis. I'm committed to every person's success who is a salesperson. It breaks my heart when people don't achieve their potential in sales, which I think, by the way, is the greatest occupation anybody could possibly be in. You get to make as much money as the doctor, the attorney, whatever. As hard as you want to work, that's as much money as you can make, but you never have to make a life or death decision. And what's the worst thing that could happen when you represent these products out in the field? What's the absolute worst thing that could happen to you?
Somebody tells you no.
Somebody says no. I mean, does your family still love you? Yes. I mean, you have your health? Yes. Did somebody say, oh my goodness, based on that decision, I'm going to walk with a limp for the rest of my life, or I'm going to spend my life in jail? I mean, imagine how many decisions those people have to make that are a lot more serious than, no, I don't want a broom today. So we have the opportunity to have as much fun or more, earn as much money or more than some of the top people in different professions, but without hardly any stress once you figure out how to be successful in sales. So that's, maybe I'm biased because that's all I've ever done, but that's the way I feel. Today we're going to have an interactive, hands-on, one-day program that will help you build your business when you get back to the field, from who are your best prospects to what do you say when you meet with them for the first time, how do you know you're talking to the right person, how do you get those appointments with people, how do you make that cold call on some perfect stranger for the first time, how do you really get to understand what their needs are, how do you present these products and these solutions effectively, how do you ask for and receive the commitment, how do you work with price resistance, how do you plan your day, how do you plan your week, how do you follow up to know when you're supposed to be in a particular area, how do you prioritize your prospects, who are the best types of people for us to be calling on so we can be more efficient and save time. Those are just some of the topics we're going to be talking about today. So what I want to do now is have you go around the room and introduce yourselves to you and me. You've probably done this a couple of times this week, but I've never met you. So, well, I've met some of you, but I want to get a flavor for, okay, number one, tell us about yourself, and then also tell us why you're here today. As far as from a sales perspective, what are some of the things you really want to focus on? And those of you who are brand new, who's the brand new guy? Is that you? And you, okay. So you might have different needs than the guys who are more experienced, and that's okay. What I want to find out is, tell me about yourself, how long you've been with Harper, and what are your expectations for today? What is it you're trying to learn? What would be a positive outcome for you working together as a team today? So we'll start with you, Jerry.
Yep. Jerry Armstrong, National Sales Manager for Harper Brush. Been here 18 years. Been in sales for over 30 years myself. Today, of course, working with nationwide, all the distributors, I share one of the same goals that Warren does. I want everyone to be successful. So anytime that there's a seminar or a sales training program, I obviously want to participate because it's critical to me to pick up new points that I can share with everybody, and together then we can make things like this work. So that's what I expect to get out of it today.
Great, thanks, Jerry.
I'm Rick Riley. I'm from just outside Des Moines, Iowa, Milwaukee. Nobody's ever heard of it. I signed on with Harper in December of '99 with Sean. Went through boot camp in January of 2000, so I think they've changed the name of it now. But I'm here because I guess you can continue to learn every day you're out in the field. And if I can pick up 1 or 2 things today or more than that, then I'm going to be ahead. So that's why I'm here.
Thanks, Rick. What did you do before you came to work with Harper Brush in 1999?
Oh, I've been in sales for probably 20-some years, a variety of different products. on my own, mostly independent. And saw Harper as a great opportunity because they're an old line company and it's a quality product.
Absolutely. Thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Al Howard. I'm out of Bradenton, Florida. Unlike Jerry, I've only been here 18 hours. And to say I'm new would be putting it mildly. I came up here for the purpose of learning how to sell these products and to be a better representative. I don't know a whole bunch about them as it is, and I realize just how little I know now after being up here and seeing the people that do know. And I'm here and I'm more than just interested in learning. I need to know how to sell these products and the best way to go about doing it. My experience has been extensive. I've been in business twice. I just got finished closing up a business I was in for 21 years. I've been a national sales manager. I've been a regional manager, division manager. I've held training classes. I've traveled all over the world. But I've got one theory, and that is you're never too old to learn. And some of the tricks change over the years go by. And I can tell you some of the things I've read in this book so far are a clear indication of that. I'm here to learn how to sell my product, how to make money, and how to be independent.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Those are two great reasons to be here. I mean, making money and being independent are some of the attributes that make a successful distributor to begin with. You know what I mean? It's the American way that the harder you work, the more money you make, and actually the harder you work, the more people you serve, and the more people you serve, the more money you make. I don't want you all to think that the reason I do what I do or that any of us do what we do is because we've got big dollar signs in our mind. The dollars, the income, is a lagging indicator of giving good service to our customers. But after we do that, or as we do that, we're entitled to money and profit and revenue and all that. And independence is what drives so many people into sales, number one, and into the entrepreneurship that you folks are all experiencing. Because you really do get a chance to call your own shots, and you live with all the decisions you make every day, right? Good or bad. You just finished the business you ran for 21 years. Sure, some days you made good decisions, some days you made decisions that maybe weren't so good, but they were your calls because you were the I'm really happy to hear it. It's a tribute to Harper for the traction you world and saw Harper as a tremendous opportunity to build a business in Florida for yourself.
Yes, I did.
Very excited.
Thank you.
And by the way, they are great products. I think you've had a chance to look at them and see them and all that. You have a great company. You can be proud to sell any product in this room to any person and not have to say, oh my goodness, I'm so happy that's done, I never need to see that person again. And you can go back week after week, month after month, and they're going to be happier there because they really do enjoy using our products. Thanks, Al.
I'm Ron Brunner from Batavia, Iowa, which is a hop, skip, and a stone's throw from here. And the reason I'm here is because it's not very far to come, and I'm here to learn too. I've been with Harper this round about 6 months or so, and I did it for 10 years back in the 70s, and I stayed home to raise my family because I didn't want to travel 200 miles away from home all the time and be gone. But anyway, sometimes you get stuck in a rut, and you need somebody with a jack to help you up out of that rut. And so I'm here to learn. I enjoy these sales seminars, and sometimes you can't see the trees for the forest, and so you need a little booster shot now and again.
I agree with you, Ron. I'm delighted you're here as well. Now I have a question that's completely off the subject, and that is when you drive from Fairfield to Batavia, and after you pass Nick Adams gas station on the right side of the road, if you keep going maybe another block or two on the right, there is a man who has built a harness track in a cornfield. Is this true? I've watched him train his pacers and trotters on a large physical quarter-mile track right in Batavia, right behind that gas station. Do you know what I'm talking about, or am I dreaming?
You're probably not dreaming.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing it.
All right, it's there, and the guy.
I wasn't there at the time he was out there doing it.
Here's what happened. I'm driving back from Ottumwa, and I love horses, right? So anytime I see a horse, my eyes just go there, and I see what looks like, the man in the racing sulky with a pacer, actually it was a trotter that day, going down what I said, where is that guy? What is he doing? So I exit right in front of Nick's gas station. I'm driving around trying to find this guy, and there's corn and soybeans and corn and soybeans, and then a quarter-mile dirt harness track. And by the time I got there, he was just coming around again, and sure enough, he had the goggles on and the hat, and he's out there training a trotter right there in Batavia. And I found out later that that's what the guy does. He doesn't race anymore, but he trains horses for other people right here in Iowa.
Get over there some horse races.
Yeah, there we go. If you're facing the gas station, go left 2 blocks, and then whatever direction that is, I don't know what direction that would be, south, I guess, away from the station, and you'll see this quarter-mile harness track in the middle of cornfields. Okay, go ahead.
I'm Brian Wilson with Eastman Products out of Indianapolis, Indiana. I've been with that company for about 3 years now. I was told to come here, and, well, actually, was told and asked. I guess my biggest reason for coming here is to turn some of my no's into yeses.
Mm-hmm.
I've only been dealing with Harper Brush for 3 years. My company's been doing it for 10.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that I've been calling on are somewhat price sensitive, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a lot of no's, but I'm ready to try to turn those into yeses.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm here for some help on that.
Okay. And when you started 3 years ago as a distributor for an existing Harper distributor, is this correct?
That's
So
correct.
that person has been in business for 10 years and brought you along as an associate.
That's correct.
Okay. And when you started 3 years ago, did you start cold with brand new accounts that had never been called on before? Or did you start with some accounts that the other person handed to you and said, oh, here are some places I don't get to anymore, start with those?
Well, my father is the owner of the company.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And he hired me on.
Mhm.
He said,
Go get them. Thanks, Dad.
I have had some pretty good luck with no experience at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I do some traveling, come here for,
Mhm.
knowledge, experience and whatnot.
Mhm.
And, the more knowledge you have, the more power you have.
I agree with you.
That's why I'm here.
Great. We're going to talk extensively about that whole concept of price resistance and how to turn the no into a yes. And when you understand that we do have a premium product at a fair price, and we're not going to be able to compete on a 24-inch push broom with the low-end made-in-China broom that they're going to see at Lowe's. You know what I mean? It's just we're not comparing apples to apples. And our job is to make them understand that we're not comparing apples to apples. It's more like apples to onions, right? So if they want to use a broom and throw it away every 6 months, by all means, buy the $12 broom and then just keep going back and getting a new one every 6 months. But if you're looking to develop a relationship with somebody who's going to not only offer you the best products and save you time, because we'll know exactly which broom and which head and which brace and which handle to give you or sell you, and not only that, it's going to last for a long time. We're going to come back and service it. How many people can you think of, I'm here to service your brooms? What do you mean brooms? You throw brooms away. Well, maybe you throw the other people's brooms away, not ours. We service them. We make them last for a long time. In fact, some people have been using our brooms for what, 10, 12 years? Think about that. So you could buy a lot of $12 brooms in 10 or 12 years. Now, not everybody's going to buy that. Somebody's going to say, oh, I'll give you the $12 broom. But some people, once you share that passion with them, it becomes contagious and they pick up on it as well. But we'll talk about that. Thanks, Brian. Sean, why are you here?
Well, I'm here because I want to learn and
Mhm.
grow sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love the products. I love working with all you guys. I think I work with everybody except for Brian, which is why I'm sitting by him, so he'll invite me out there so I can work with him next time.
There you go.
And but really, I just think it's a great product. It's Al and I went out yesterday and just had a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And just right here around Fairfield, and I guess kind of what I do, I'm kind of our factory rep, and then I also do a little bit of sales training and do some recruiting. So I get I'm pretty integrated into the company. And it's a lot of fun to see what I'm talking about and going out and doing it. And it's really neat.
Yes, I agree with you. I've known Sean for 2 years, and Sean to me epitomizes what a professional salesperson is all about. I'm looking for 3 specific skills when I'm evaluating sales talent, whether it's in my own business or in my company's businesses, my clients' businesses. I'm looking for 3 particular skill sets. The base of the pyramid is what I call product knowledge. In other words, do you know what the heck it is you're talking about? I don't know what your product was, Al, that you sold for 21 years, but I bet you knew what the heck it was. The applications, the features, the benefits, the competitors, who were the best prospects for it. You knew all that stuff.
Yes.
And so if you ask Sean about a particular brush or broom or corn broom or dairy brush or whatever it is, he knows which product goes with which application, whether it's a squeegee or you name it, he understands that. And the base of every type of salesperson's success is grounded in that product knowledge. And that's why the school is set up to do a whole day of product training? Al, were you here? Get a whole day of product training? That's just the beginning. What we've tried to do is refine that. In part of the handouts that you'll see in the book you're taking with you is the work that Jerry and Sean have done in making sure that if you go into an auto detail shop, you know the top 3 or 4 products to talk about. Because when you look around the walls, how many products are displayed right in this room? Help me out. 1,000 products.
14 or 41, 1,041.
1,041 products. And if you walked into a maintenance shop of the local city government, you don't talk about 1,041 products, but I bet you there's 6 products we should be talking about. And so Sean understands that, and he has helped us ground this sales training program in that product knowledge. The second part of that 3-sided knowledge triangle is having the right attitude. And the people that succeed in business are those people who believe in what they're doing. They are so passionate about what they do that if somebody raises an objection, they're able to burst through that because they're so filled with belief and passion for their product and their company. A lot of people will pay more to work with someone like Sean who's that passionate and has that much belief about his products and his company. Does it work with everyone? No. But it gives you a huge leg up on the people that are just, oh yeah, I have a broom, they have a broom, we all have a broom. Those are the people that fail in sales, the people that can't differentiate the difference between their company and others. So belief and then enthusiasm, those of you that travel with Sean know he's very excited about what he does. And that's also contagious. The customers and the prospects pick up on that. If you're excited, they get excited. And then persistence. If somebody says no, persistence means you ask, why not? And if somebody says, no, not today, persistence means you say, well, when can I come back? Anytime you're faced with an obstacle in your life, especially in sales, you have to apply the rule of persistence. And Sean has those 3 attitudes, belief, enthusiasm, and persistence in spades. So we've got product knowledge, we've got attitude, and the third part of that triangle is having an understanding of the sales business, having a sales process, having an understanding of what you're supposed to do every day to be successful. Many of the ideas that you're going to be hearing and listening and learning about today are not for me, but they're from Sean. Sean has created some amazingly powerful and simple techniques that he uses out in the field that you who have worked with him have seen, where he gets people instantly involved and the rapport is right there, and you say, now how did we just meet that guy 30 minutes ago, and he just wrote a check for, how much did you sell yesterday?
Just shy $900.
$900 from a perfect stranger, right? Were these cold calls or follow-up calls? Mostly.
All but 2 of them were cold calls.
How did he do that?
Can I volunteer?
Yeah, you please. Go ahead, Al.
He astounded me yesterday.
Yeah.
Where the day before, Jerry and Sean were showing the new rake that they have with the steel spokes to it. And it's got replaceable parts and so forth. And they were both very enthusiastic about it. I looked at the rake, I had never seen it before, but it looked like a pretty good rake. We're riding down the road and he's looking for an address. And he sees a man standing on a corner on the side of the road. He's on the edge of the curb and he's raking rocks out of grass onto the street. And the purpose was he had all these rocks in somebody else's property that he had put there from back. I don't know how it happened, but he had to get out of there. So Sean's making a turn and he says, well, that guy looks like a prospect. And we pull up next to him and he said, roll down the window. I roll down the window and he says to him, I've got something that'll do a much better job than that. And he jumps out of the truck, stops the truck, jumps out, gets out, opens up the back, and sells a man a $22 rake right there on the spot. Well, I'm sitting there dumbfounded. I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah.
And that's how the day started. And normally it was getting dark before I could finally convince him, yeah, to bring me back to the plant so I could see Jerry. But that's a little indication of just what he does.
Yes, and think about that. Product knowledge, attitude, and selling skills all working together.
Get them all.
Yes. And so I've had a really fun time getting to know Sean, and a lot of the ideas that are in this book are actually a blend of what Jerry brings to the table, his 18 years experience, Sean's 2 years, or what, 3 years, 2 years with Harper,
About 2.5.
2.5, and then my 27 years of sales experience. So I'm the generic guy. I'm the one that actually started with the model, and then by interviewing, and did they know that we had numerous discussions with the Distributor Advisory Council? Some of the top people, the top Harper distributors in the country would join us on conference calls, and we would talk to them, okay, we'd send them stuff via email or fax that we had created. We'd say, look at this stuff, what do you think? And they'd say, well, this is good, but this is, what are you talking about? And then we would constantly refine the information so that when you get to the point where we are today, this is a blend of Jerry's knowledge, Sean's knowledge, my knowledge, plus four of the top distributors who have been selling Harper Brush successfully, some of whom for decades, and one guy just for a couple of years. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that Sean got acknowledged that he really is on the right path. And so if you listen to what he says, and I'm going to rely on him a lot during the role plays, because the language that he uses and the way he goes about it is perfect for your business, as you saw in the field yesterday. And so if you look long term, if you look at the opportunity for any person who is driven, who is fun to be around, and who will learn the products and understand sales skills, the sky is the limit. We could have 500 distributors across the country having a good time, being in business for themselves, feeling good about themselves, earning good money for their family. It's all out there. We've got great products, a great company, and our job is just to learn what the heck we're supposed to do to go sell it. That's why we're here. Barry.
Barry Harper. I'm the president and CEO of Harper Brush since 1990. I grew up in Fairfield and worked here when I was in high school, and then went away to college and had my own business for 20-some years. I guess part of the reason I'm here is to learn, because sales is the engine that drives our business, and I want to do everything I can to support that engine. Part of it is to evaluate what we paid some money for, see whether it needs any refinements from my viewpoint, or whether we got our money's worth, and part just to learn from you guys as to how we can become a better company and support you and make you successful, because if you're successful, we're going to be successful.
That's right. Barry has a great vision for what this business is all about. The business was not the way it is today when Barry came back in 1990. He's done some incredible things to grow all aspects of the business, including acquisitions that were probably not part of the program 50 years ago, but we've made some acquisitions to strengthen our product line. And also, Barry was just named the Fairfield Chamber of Commerce Entrepreneur of the Year a couple of weeks ago, and he was very humble in accepting that award. And on the same evening, we started a new category. We created the Entrepreneurs Hall of Fame. I'm on the board of the Fairfield Entrepreneurs Association, and we decided, what can we do that can really jazz up our community? And we decided we were going to start an Entrepreneurs Hall of Fame, and the first inductee into that Hall of Fame was A.K. Harper, who founded this company. And so we had a chance to tell A.K. Harper stories, and then Barry accepted the award on his grandfather's behalf. And so that was fun to be able to watch Barry in action a couple of weeks ago right here in Fairfield, receiving not one, but 2 awards. And Barry, I hope and I pray that you will get your money's worth. I'm pretty confident you will, but I'm happy you're here. It means a lot when the leader of the company, the president, is willing to sit down in a new sales training program and make sure that it jives with his vision. So I think it's just great. As busy as Barry is, to be able to spend some time with us today is really meaningful for me. Okay, any other questions or discussion before we get started on the material? Okay, let's look at first this handout right after the table of contents page. There is a form that shows 19 different things that we're hoping you're going to learn at this training. Now, is this the first time you've seen this form, or did Jerry show this to you earlier in the week, or Sean? Is this the first time you're seeing this?
I would have seen it.
Al would have seen it? Okay. What we decided to do from the macro perspective, in terms of the big picture, we wanted to say, okay, what would make a sales distributor be the most successful when they get back to their territory after they came to visit us for 3 or 4 days? If we had these people who spent their time and their money and their energy and their whole life with us for a week, what the heck would we want them to walk away with? And so these 19 ideas are the things that we felt were the most important for you to know going back into the field, whether you're brand new or going back after being in it for 3 years or 8 years or whatever. We want to say, okay, do you understand all these things? Many of these have been covered during the week you've already been here, and I'm going to cover specifically, I think 13 of these 19 topics are going to be covered by me today, or Sean and I should say. So it's just, if you want to look back on this document, if you would say to yourself, you know, how is my business? Where do I think I need some work? I'd say you go back to this list of 19 things and just say, okay, well, do I understand what my top 3 products are in each product category? You might say, yeah, I understand that in terms of automotive shops. I understand that in terms of grain elevators. When it comes to municipalities, I really don't know that. So now you go back in and you figure out, okay, what do I need to know to move forward? So it's just in there for your information. It's the 19 things we want to make sure you all know when you have a chance to get back to your territories. Okay, tab 1, we've got some quotes from other people who have been doing this for a while, and these are some of the top people in your business who really understand why it's so important for them to be involved with Harper. It's just FYI, just to have it there. Topper, by the way, was a guy who was on our Distributor Advisory Council that helped us plan the sales training. Stephen Levy was on that committee as well, and Dennis Wimmer from Utah was on that committee. And those 3 only? Oh, and Terry. Okay, so we had all 4 of these people represented in this quote are also part of this group that helped us plan the sales training. Okay, look at page 4. Well, I'm still within tab 1. I want to talk a little bit about defining principles. You know, there's a famous quote, I don't know who it's attributed to, and the quote is, now Richard, can you see this from where you are? I should move it so you don't have to move the camera as much. Is that better? And you all can see it, right? There's a famous quote, again, I don't know to whom it's attributed, and that is, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. You ever heard that before? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And so I really think that that's important to recognize. What is it that we stand for? And Sean and Jerry and I, and also Maxine Miners needs to be acknowledged. She was on the committee, and Jeff Harris, our marketing guy, he sat in on many of the meetings as well. We started thinking about, okay, now what is it that makes us different? How are we unique? What is that defining principle, or what are those defining principles that make us successful out in the field every day? And we came up with what's that phrase that says, we save you time. If you go out and you work with people in the field and you talk about how you're going to save them money, when our push broom at retail costs what? $40. I don't think they're going to look at that and say, you know, that's a really cheap push broom. I think I should buy a gross of those. We're not offering people cheap products at cheap prices. What we are saying to people is, we can save you time. We don't just have one different push broom. We've got however many we've got up there. It looks to me like there might be 60 different versions of push brooms up on the wall. And why do we have 60 different versions? Why don't we just have 2 or 3? The answer is that we want to be able to save the people that use that broom to sweep their floors time. That's our defining principle. When Sean makes cold calls, Al, you probably saw this when you were out with him yesterday, he leads with that right away. I've got some ideas that might be able to save you time. Do you have a minute so we can talk about that? And here's this guy walking in the door with a brush on his shoulder and a free nail brush on his other hand, and the guy's looking at him, you're going to save me time? It just kind of gets him interested in what the whole idea is. And that is what the business is that we're in. We're in the business of helping people craft sweeping solutions that ultimately save them time. It's the right product for the right application. And so that's the way we lead. That differentiates us from the janitorial supply person that's coming in. That differentiates us from the people that are going into Home Depot to seeing a rack display that has our top 12 or 15 SKUs. It differentiates us in a way that is unique. So we lead with, we save you time. How do we do that? We have 1,041 different products. We have immediate delivery, right? We've got it right here on the van or the truck for you. Loyal service, meaning we're going to come back over and over again. We're going to service these things. And people are going to change out the bolts and make sure the braces are fit properly. We'll flip the brush over for you or the broom so you can use it both sides or both, what do you call that, Sean? Both sides of the broom, both,
Reverse the head.
Thank you. Reverse the head so you get even wear. That's what we do for you. We don't just sell you a product and go away. We're going to come back over and over again and making sure we're introducing you to new ideas and making sure the products you bought from us work. And finally, Sean's tagline, we get the good stuff when you need it. And if you look at the research I've done on why people buy, 91% of the time when you ask people, why did you buy from Total Selling Systems, which is the name of my company, or Harper Brush, why did you buy? 91% of the time they said it's because they're there when I need them. If we can be that company that's there when they need us, we're the ones that are going to get the orders. Now, does that mean you have to go there every week? No. Once you develop a relationship with that person, they will call you when they need product in between the times you're going to be a face-to-face presence. But the fact is, you develop that, we have the good stuff when you need it, and you're the company that's positioned to what I call getting the first call. If somebody needs a cleaning product, we want to be in the position where they call us first. Now, if we don't have it, maybe we can get it for them. If they're asking us for something that we don't really get involved with, what if somebody calls you up and they ask you for welding equipment? Right? They like you and they want to buy welding equipment from you. You can either say, well, let me source that for you, or you can say, hey, I'm really happy you called. We don't really specialize in that, but what is the end product of all that welding you're doing? I'm sure I've got a broom that'll push it away for you. That's what this is all about. We want to lead with our defining principle, and we have two here at Harper Brush. One is we save you time. We are in the sweeping solutions business, and part of that involves helping you save time. And the second thing that's a defining principle of being successful as a Harper distributor is staying power, what I called earlier persistence. You're going to get no's, right? I mean, you've heard your share of them. Sean has, I have. We've all heard no out there. And you have to understand that sometimes people say no out of what I call reflex resistance. They just say no because that's what they're conditioned to say. Oftentimes they say no because they don't understand the offer. They don't understand, everybody goes for their cell phone at the same time. They don't understand really what the offer is. Or sometimes they say no because there's not enough rapport built up yet. They don't trust you enough. If you present a $40-some push broom to someone who says, well, wait a minute, is this one of those things where it's really a $12 push broom, but he's going to charge me $40, and as soon as he leaves, it's going to break just like all the other $12 push brooms? If they don't trust you enough, then they're not going to buy from you today. So people say no for a lot of different reasons. And we have to understand that we need staying power. We need financial staying power to be able to support ourselves while we grow our business. We need emotional staying power, so if somebody says no, it doesn't crush us, it doesn't compromise our own belief system, that we understand that no is just something that happens on the way to yes. And then persistence or staying power also means that you understand how to prioritize your days and you know where you're supposed to be going on a daily basis, so you practice persistence in your own manner of how many calls am I going to make today, who are the best people in town for me to go after, how am I going to get a hold of them, what do I do if they're not in, do I come back, do I phone them? Those are all examples of staying power. Having the financial wherewithal to make sure you support yourself, having the emotional staying power to get through no, and having that day-to-day kind of grind it out. So many people think sales is glamorous, you know? It's just, you know, you drive around in your fancy vehicles and you show up and have your flashy watch, you know, and your slick back hair and all that jewelry and all that. We all know it's a bunch of nonsense. So much of being successful in sales is literally just the grinding it out. Making the call. He's not there. Okay, when's he going to be back? I'll come back at 10 o'clock. What about him across the street? Well, he was on vacation last time. And how do you keep records? And how do you know where you're supposed to go and what you said the last time? That's not glamorous. You don't have to have a degree in biomechanical engineering to carry that off. It's common sense, but it's also based on what I call staying power. Okay, any questions about that? Any questions about that? Okay, so what I want to do now is have Sean, you be you, Sean, and I want you to just do the opening part of a call when you're meeting somebody for the first time. I don't want you to go through all 9 steps. I just want you to do the opening call when you talk to somebody for the first time and talk about how you're going to save them time. So who wants to be the, we have to create a role for someone. Well, Hal, just work with Brian right next to you. And Brian, you just say who you're going to be. What type of business are you in, and who are you, and just help Sean out. So what are you? Who are you?
I'm Brian, I'm an industrial supplier.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so Sean, go ahead.
Hi, Brian. I'm Sean Fry with Harper Brush. Wanted to stop by today, show you our cleaning products, and save a little bit of time in the shop. Is that okay? Sure. Okay, good. Have you ever heard of Harper? No. Okay. Could I take just a minute and tell you a little bit about our product? Okay, great. You want me to keep going?
No, that's fine. Perfect. So he basically opens with, hi, I'm Sean, and I'm with Harper Brush, and I've got some ideas here that show you how my products can save you some time. Do you have a minute? And most people would say what?
About 80% of the time, most people...
They'll say sure. Now, if you're a person coming in right off the street carrying a broom and they have no idea who you are, and they've got 15 things on their to-do list, plus the 10 that they had from yesterday, when you say, do you have a minute, what are they going to say to you?
Just a minute.
Well, they're going to say, no, I don't have a minute. And that's the 20% of the time. So does that say, oh, you know, I'm going to send all the inventory back to Harper. That guy said, no, I'm never coming back here again. It's just one of those things, right? 80% of the time, when you present yourself, I've got some ideas based on these products that are going to save you time. Do you have a minute? They're going to say, sure, what do you got?
Which is why it's so important to bring a product in.
Absolutely.
I like to bring this in because it surprises them. I mean, it just, you get so many weird comments, and it puts people at ease.
Yeah.
It's just a neat thing, and you know they're not, some guys even try to sweep with it. I need to get a new one, because mine gets pretty dirty. But it's just amazing. And then on the other end of it, you can flip the handle. You put a 54-inch handle, you put a squeegee on the top, and you can use that. So in a lot of places, you can use the good moss foam squeegee. And it just catches people. Whereas a lot of times, if I walk in and say, hey, Brian, I'm Sean with Harper, and give him a brochure, immediately he's on the defense.
That's right. He doesn't know if you're Harper with Sean, Sean with Harper. They have no idea. Imagine, these are mostly cold calls we're talking about. And so you want to be known as, and I'd be proud to be known as the broom guy, you know what I mean? And let's expand later to I'm your sweeping solutions guy, but I walk in with the broom head because I don't want them to think I'm going to carry chemicals. I'm not a janitorial supply company. I'm not going to walk in with a brochure because then I could be selling anything, right? From life insurance to auto leasing programs to who knows what. You walk in with that product and you lead with defining principle number 1, I can save you time, do you have a minute? And then I like the follow-up question, have you heard of Harper Brush? And if they haven't, then you have a chance to tell a small amount of the story. Talk about your independence, talk about the quality of the products, talk about that you're in business for yourself, you are the guy, and you're going to be able to talk to them about how you can save them some time. Okay.
And the same principle applies when it's a one-man show or a huge corporation.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah,
hat.
it works anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, whether you're
I'm
walking...
not used to people bringing a product in, and if you bring it in, you're proud of it. You're
Yeah.
not hiding it.
That's right. Yeah, I mean...
Truck, I'm afraid to show it to you.
Yeah, exactly. You walk right in, you lead with your strength, and that is that you're proud to represent the company, and you've got fabulous products, and they can even see it just by looking at the quality of the wood that is part of that broom head. And it's a very nicely finished product. Notice how there's not splinters coming off the ends of it. It's rounded, it's painted. I mean, you can tell it's a very nice product.
And even the block, are we the only American manufacturer left that makes our own blocks?
There are a couple other brush companies that do.
Oh, there are?
Yeah. But I don't know that they're direct competitors.
Okay, great. This is one of the main things I want to make sure you know when you leave today, is that the best way to open the call is by leading with what you're passionate about. And what we as a company are passionate about is we help our customers save time. And if you just do that one thing that Sean showed you, that you walk in with the broom, you meet the person, you greet them with good eye contact, and you say, hi, I'm Sean with Harper Brush, represent Harper Brush, and I want to talk to you about some of these products that can save you some time. Do you have a minute? Now, the script for that's in there later, but I just want to make sure you understand that part of being able to close the sale is being able to open the sale appropriately. You know what I mean? You do all the right things to open the sale, and then the closing part becomes that much easier. There's a quote on the bottom of the page that talks about someone who actually had to face a lot of challenge in his life till he got to triumph. And if you read that, you'll know that that person was pretty famous. And If you don't know who it is, ask Sean, he'll tell you. But the fact is, the man faced tremendous failures in his life before he ultimately became a success. That's a great quote, by the way. Okay. Second part of, we're going to talk about now tab 2. We're going to do a little exercise, and then we're going to take a short break. I want you to look at page 5 of the handout, which is the first page behind tab 2. Remember I talked about product knowledge being the base. Attitude is the second aspect. You've got product knowledge of the base. Attitude is the first part of the side, and then selling skills is the third part. This is called the success triangle, by the way. I just realized that it's not in the handout. I mean, I talk about it, but it's not in the handout. Product knowledge, attitude, and selling skills. So this is the attitude piece. What I want you to do is just take a minute and rate yourself in terms of these 10 attributes. If you think you're remarkable in belief, it's unshakable, then you give yourself a 10. If you would say that in terms of persistence, you're weak in that area, if somebody says no, you kind of put your tail between your legs and feel badly about that, then you'd be a 1. So give yourself a rating, and then take a few minutes to do that, add up the score, and where it says total, put your own score there. It's funny, every time I lead one of these programs, I do it as well, just to see. I test my own attitude all the time. By a show of hands, how many people in the room had 85 or more? Okay, half of us. How many people had 70 to 84? Okay, Sean, you're hard on yourself. Okay. I had 87 today. You know, when we were interviewing the people on the Distributor Advisory Council, just take a guess as to which one they thought was the absolute number one. If you didn't have this, none of the others mattered. Just take a guess. Pardon me? Nope. It was confidence. Remember that? They were talking about how if you know the products and you know the customers and you walk in with a confident attitude, that's half the battle. Is leading with, in other words, knowing what the heck you're doing out there. That helps you tremendously when you're out in front of your clients or your prospects. So when you look at a list like this, you might say to yourself, hey, you know, in terms of belief, I'm off the chart. I really believe in these products in this company. Now, Al, you've been here 18 hours. You know, maybe your belief system isn't a 10. Well, heck, maybe it is after you've been here being around these people. But the fact is when I look at a list like this, I say, okay, where do I need to improve to get to wherever I was to get to be a 10 in any particular category? So for me, for example, I gave myself a 7 in self-discipline. Now, in times before, I've given myself an 8 or a 9. There have been times in my life when I think I've given myself a 10. But today, I'm only a 7. And I think part of that is that I'm a long-distance runner, and so when I'm in shape and I'm running every single day, I just feel tremendous. I have just remarkable amounts of energy. And I had to go to the doctor yesterday because I picked up a food allergy in Dallas, and I am covered from head to toe with hives, which is, by the way, why I'm wearing just a real easy-to-wear cotton shirt today and not a button-down shirt. Anyway, so I went in there and I had to go. I haven't had a physical in 11 years because I'm as healthy as a horse. So I go in there, and he had me get on the scale, and I could not believe I'm saying, well, you know, I usually weigh about 135, 140 pounds. No way, Jose. I mean, I've just, I don't know, the last couple of years I must have gained some weight because I don't run every day anymore. I run every other day. And so my self-discipline scale from yesterday about 3 o'clock until this morning just went way down because I realized I had not been watching my diet. So you'll see what happens over the next 60 days. Because in order for me to run a marathon in under 3 hours in the year 2003 when I turned 50, I need to carry about 30 less pounds than I have as of yesterday at 3 o'clock. So I'm going to work on my own self-discipline to move that number back up. And for me, it's just, you know, pushing myself away from the table. Because I could eat probably more than anybody in this room because I exercise so much. But
Jerry and I would challenge you.
oh, obviously, I've not been doing a good job at that. And the interesting thing, my clothes seem to fit okay, but I took my tape measure out and measured my waist this morning after my shower, and I realized that my belt's fitting fine here. It's the stuff up here that I need to work on.
Mine's getting lower.
Yeah, yours is getting lower.
We got the same
But-
belt, but it gets lower.
But I was just shocked. And so that's why I think it's good to do these types of exercises on a regular basis. Even though it has nothing to do with work, it's just a part of my life is that I'm a 135 pound person in a 155 pound body as of yesterday, so I need to lose that weight. All right. Any questions or comments about anything you analyzed on your own there when you were looking at your own attitudes? Anybody feel like sharing anything they noticed about this exercise?
Not about myself, as you mentioned, with the four distributors that were involved in this. And of course, you met a lot of them, and Barry knows a lot of them, Sean knows a lot of them, but the number one, there isn't one of those gentlemen that doesn't have the self-confidence. I mean, if you get to know them, that's the key to it. When you meet him, you think, oh, man, that guy is really confident. So I would concur that, if you don't have the self-confidence, then start building it, because that's the key to believing in yourself.
Yeah. Or you call us, right? You go out there and you realize that maybe when you get back into the field, there's a key thing that we forgot to teach you.
Yeah.
Well, shame on us, right? You go in there and you keep getting beat up and you go, wait a minute, I just went through a week-long training program. I get out there and I don't know the difference between a blank and a blank. Then you better call us up and say, you know what? I'm out here in the field and my confidence is being tested because they're asking me questions I can't answer. And that's the time you call us back, and you call anybody here or you call me. And then we help you build that or rebuild the confidence. By the way, if you want to get a hold of me, because my information's not in here, it's the Harper Brush information is. Let me give you my toll-free number so you can call me anytime. It's 1-888-778-7335. 1-888-778-7335. And you can also go to my website and look for additional information on selling. I've got a really robust free website called TotalSelling.com, and it's one of the premier free sales resource sites in the country, actually. Gets about 30,000 new hits per month. So you can reach me through my toll-free number or my website. Okay. Let's take a short break. When we get back, we're going to get into much more depth about what I call sales planning and product and market knowledge, and then we'll get very in-depth on the sales process. I've got the official clock, actually we all do, that says 8:50, so let's take a 15-minute break and come back at 5 minutes after 9. I'll give you time to return some phone calls, get some coffee, use the restroom, 5 after 9. Now we want to talk about product knowledge, and this is tab 3 of your workbook. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to best serve the distributor member to figure out, okay, now how are we going to categorize these products to make sure that you are grounded in the knowledge? And so that's what this is all about. If you have not had a chance, Al, you've had a chance to read some of this. I hope it made sense to you. And for the rest of you that are seeing it for the first time, it's a real easy way in about 3 or 4 pages to really kind of pick up the Harper story from the founding of the company to what we stand for, our guiding principles, and then into the product categories themselves, from push brooms to blocks to fiber, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason this is important is that when it comes right down to it, people buy what are called benefits. People buy what's in it for them. And so if you were to say to somebody, our brooms have wooden handles, they would say, well, so what? What does that mean to me? Why do I care that your product has a wooden handle? Or if our push brooms come in different sizes and different styles and different fibers and different heat-resistant properties or whatever, if the customer says, well, so what? Why is that important to me? Then it's not a benefit to the customer. And the main thing that we do, like we said before, there's 3 overarching principles. Product knowledge is the base. And so it's real important to be grounded in the products, and that's what this whole section is about. But before I get into that, I want to have Ron review the discussion you had with Al about that book you carry, because I think it's really cool as a way to understand, which products go how, and why don't you just kind of review the conversation we were having at the break, and show us your little book, too.
Oh. Well, I was just showing Al this little book that I made up that has all the part numbers in it, and tells which handle I apply to this particular broom and stuff, the most common, and have all the prices, kind of like an assembled mini price list. And then I can make notes in here too. So it just makes it real handy if somebody wants to know how much a certain one is, and then when you're making a ticket out, you have everything right here in front of you in a small area, so you don't have to keep folding back and forth through a big catalog trying to figure out how much everything is. And so it just saves the jobbers a lot of time, so we can spend more time with the customer instead of spending time making tickets out.
Yeah, so give us an example. Go across one of those lines and tell us.
This one has here, this particular number here has the 85 handle, which is a heavy-duty handle, and the head for this particular item is 2314. With a handle and brace, it'd be $37.55, and then if it has a scraper goes on, it'd be $40.41. And it's all on this one little line in this little bitty book.
Right. So that's very cool. That's a way to take the information that's product knowledge and turn it into application knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And that's where, it's kind of where form meets function, where the information meets the knowledge, together it's application, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a great way to go about organizing that. I just wanted to make sure that we captured that on tape, so when Sean does this sometime in the future, he can refer back to that as well.
Is that the type of thing that the company should have?
The only thing of it is, that'd be a great idea, except that all of our pricing is suggested prices. And not all the jobbers may use that particular price. So it's something to be really neat if we had something like that, but it'd be difficult to print something like that with an adjustable price. Would be the only problem.
Yeah, you'd have to have different books for different margins. You can say if you're gonna keystone this and mark your cost up by 100%.
Well, I think one thing that somebody made me one, and I really like it. But in the back of our price list is a numerical sequence that tells you which page the price is on. Why don't we just have a price list with the part numbers in sequence to go along with that? Because it's much. That's the way the price list used to be years ago. All we had was just a numerical sequence price list. It didn't tell us what page it was on in the catalog.
Right.
Which is fine, but when you're looking for the price, it's much faster to look it up if you only look the number up once instead of looking the number up twice to get the information.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, thanks, Ron. All right. You focused on this, Sean, during the earlier part of the week, all the different product groupings, push brooms, blocks, fiber. You've all done that. Okay.
Right.
We just wanted to make sure that it was also part of this program so that you could see all the different ways that that you can organize the information in your mind. It's a way of taking 1,041 products and putting them into, what do we have, 14 categories, Sean?
Says 13.
Right, but there are 14.
Listed.
There you go. So it's just another way of categorizing the information. We're going to spend some time on this later on today when we talk about feature and benefit. We'll have a chance to grab products off the wall that fit these various categories. But the main thing I want you to remember from this tab is that there's a company story and then there is a product grouping story. Those are the two things to remember. And when you get involved with people in a discussion, we were talking earlier about price resistance and people who are price sensitive in a market. Sometimes they would pay more if they understood the whole story. And instead of just going in there with the product at a price, if you kind of bundle that with what we stand for, all of a sudden that product has a higher value in the mind of the customer. People are willing to pay more for value. Doesn't mean everybody's willing to pay more, but roughly 89% of the people will pay more for value. We talked about this a few minutes ago where I showed this statistic of 91%. 91% of people who buy from a vendor of choice say, I buy from them because they're there when I need them. The other statistic that's interesting in that same survey is 11% of the people said the reason I buy from the companies I buy from is because I get the lowest price. Notice how it doesn't say low price or lower price, it's lowest price. And so our job is to filter out those people that buy only on price or lowest price. We can't afford to call on those people because our products are not the lowest price products on the market. So if somebody keeps handing you over and over and over again, I can get it cheaper, I can get it cheaper, I can get it cheaper, it has to be less, you got to give me a better deal, those are the people we lop off. Let our competitors go out there and chase that business. We want to eliminate those people from our mix. But the good news is it's only 11% of the people, which means 89% of people make decisions based on other things than lowest price. Okay? All right, questions about product knowledge? All right, let's turn to tab 4. This is what we're talking about. Who is the customer? And if you look at the line on the top part of the page, anyone with a door and a floor is a potential customer. Now we say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, but not necessarily, right? Our job is to figure out who are the businesses that are going to give us the most bang for the buck, so to speak. Now if you're going to, like Sean stopped on the side of the road and offered that guy the rake yesterday, and what type of business was that person in? Do you know? Was it a homeowner? Or was it a business person, or?
Well, I really didn't know for sure. I just saw him out there raking.
And what did you find out after that? Did you do some more fact-finding or probing to find out more about the guy?
We found out he owned the business across the street.
Okay.
Which he had sold a couple of years prior to.
Okay.
And in fact gave us a referral. He gave us a referral to call on the new owner.
There you go. Perfect. Now let's say he didn't have that type of referral to the business across the street. He was a homeowner, and you solved his problem with a $20 rake. Would that be somebody you're going to go back and call on every week for the next 10 years in that scenario?
Probably not.
Right, Brian's got it. And so what we're getting at is we have to figure out who are the best prospects for us to be calling on, and where are we going to spend the most amount of time for us. And so the way to go about that is an understanding of, like it says, who are our best businesses to go after. If you look at the paragraph after that, it mentions a bunch of different type of companies that we tend to do really well with. So those of you who've been out in the field for a while, so Rick, look at that list where it says auto body shops. That should be not care dealers, that should be car dealers.
Car dealers.
Contractors, elevators, convenience stores. How does that line up with your businesses? You look at that list. Would you agree that that's the type of list that would be good for you in your territory?
Pretty much. I guess I don't call much on convenience stores, and maybe I should. Most of them here in Iowa are chains, and
Right.
they don't buy locally, unfortunately.
Yeah. So yeah, you have the Casey's, the Come and Goes, you know, they're the types of people here in Iowa that would be a franchise or a chain organization where local people don't have decision-making authority. But as you look at the other ones, detail shops, factories, grocery stores, hospitals, nursing homes.
Those are probably our best customers.
There you go.
The elevators here in Iowa, of course, are kind of a seasonal. They don't really buy year-round unless they need to. Spring and the fall is their busy times of year. And
Yeah.
Now, Ron, you've got a pretty decent C-store chain, right? The Phillips 66 stores.
Yeah.
You and I called on.
Yeah.
And they've got 16 stores. I mean, that's.
You need to find out who the area, the regional manager is, if they're in your territory, and call on them. Because you have there are some chain stores per se that have that may have maybe a small chain that has 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 or 15 stores. And if you can call on the main headquarters, it's a possibility that you can get authorization to call on their stores and sell that stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're right.
They are a direct competitor of Casey's, and we do encourage everybody to boycott Casey's because none of those people can make a decision. You go in there, the management people want it, and none of them, they don't have any authority. I really don't know how they run those stores because I've called on several Casey's stores. They all want the stuff. They try to get it, and they can't buy it.
Yeah.
It's just.
The only way to offer our products to them would be go directly to Casey's headquarters. We're north of Des Moines, right? Ankeny, and make the call at their Ankeny store. But I'd encourage you to try that. They might be the type of people that would say, you know what, for us it's a commodity item. They're going to steal it, throw it away, break it anyway, so we'd rather pay $12 and keep throwing them away than buy a $40 push broom. But I'm not saying that's going to happen there, but it might happen, but it's worth checking out. But the main point here is that we're talking about an area where we have to find out who has local decision-making authority or regional decision-making authority, and that's where you go. You go where the money is. And in that case, with that convenience store chain where you can get 16 stores to buy from you, that's perfect. That's a great opportunity for us, as opposed to trying to go sell to Casey's or Home Depot if they needed I know Home Depot is a customer of ours, but I'm using it in terms of us selling to a large company.
No, it was really interesting on opening that account, that particular chain. We were meeting with the head regional guy, made a presentation in the office, just like we'll show the exact same presentation today, and got him out to the truck, and we started chatting and stuff, and he was pulling out a few items. And then the owner of Ayers Oil Company pulled in, and he says, hey, you know, what's going on? And we told him, and he says, okay, I need this, 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 and this for my home, and call in all my stores. And it was as easy as that. I mean, it really was a 35-minute call, but it took several phone calls to build up to that.
Right, to position yourself where that was going to be a good call to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's two main points that are interesting in that story. One is you have to be the right person in the right place at the right time. And that's so much of selling is you just show up at the right time. It's like Woody Allen said in the movie Annie Hall, 80% of being successful in life is showing up. And sometimes you just keep showing up and then you get there on the right day. And the other thing that's interesting about that story is that we have this fear in our mind, oh, they're not going to be able to like us, trust us, look at what we have to offer and buy all on the same day. I know I'm going to have to introduce myself today, come back next week, show the features and benefits, come back a week later or a month later, and then they'll buy from me. That's why we have this mentality of what the sales cycle is going to be like. But ultimately, when you practice it the way Sean does it in the field, it's build a rapport, show them what you have. The products are great, the reputation's behind it, and they just say, give me, give me, give me, give me, and the sale is made right there. It is an amazingly powerful one-call sale.
How often do you see those stores now, Ron?
Oh, about once every 3 minutes.
Yeah. So it's been a nice little account.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so it's important, this is kind of the stepping stone that we're going to talk a lot about later when I talk about sales planning, as to who those best customers are. And our job is to kind of, yes, use the tongue-in-cheek, anybody with a door and a floor, but we want to make sure that we're calling on the people that can buy volume from us, or we can develop a relationship and go back over and over and over again. And typically, when you interview the most successful Harper distributors, their business falls into those particular categories. Now, depending on regional type business, you might find that in your territory, you might have a lot of, who knows what, nuclear power plants, right? And so you might have power plants as part of what you would do, or maybe by Bradenton and Sarasota, maybe there's a marine aspect to what you're going to be doing that wouldn't really play that well in Iowa because we don't have a whole lot of lakes and oceans or Gulf near us. Or maybe you'll sell products there that are much more useful for pushing sand around or moving sand out of places, where here, you know, we're working with clumps of dirt and clay. And so I guess it's regional in some way, important to understand the regional differences, but overall, these are the types of companies that we do the best with. Okay? And then it says under that, finding the customer, who they are and what they buy. What's the best way to find out who they are and what they buy? Barry's got it. You ask questions. You don't have to go in like you're some mind reader and you're going to presume what they buy now. You go in there and you start asking them what their questions are, what their concerns are, what are some of their cleaning problems. And so finding the customer, who they are and what they buy, is just a matter of going in and being what I call a naturally curious person. You're going to need to start asking very innocent questions that lead them to where you need them to be. Any questions about that? We're going to spend a lot more time talking about that later, but it's a good time to talk about it, get it introduced right now. If you look at the next section, it says knowledge of your competition. Those of us that have been in the field longer, maybe you can respond to that. So Sean, tell me, who do you think your competition is?
We don't have any. I mean, really, there's lots of other people that make cleaning stuff. Barry would know better, and Jerry would, of who they really are. But the main thing is, nobody saves our customer time the way we do. They just simply don't do it because 1,041 different items, immediate delivery, and loyal service. There's nobody else out there that I've found anyway that does it. I mean, yeah, you got Zep. I mean, they got a broom and a squeegee, big deal. You've got Malco. They'll carry 1 or 2 different brooms and squeegees. Again, no big deal. For the industrial shop users and even the small guys, they really appreciate that. that one-on-one, what I call personal experience factor.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you get them out there and they get what they need and they can touch and look and feel, and you're giving them a free brush, and before you know it, it's a $200 ticket and they're telling you to go see 3 of their buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, we don't have any competition.
Okay.
When you present it like that, you really don't.
Right, so who touches our business in ways that are not pure competition, but they compete with us in certain areas? I mean, you guys are out there. Ron, what's it like in your areas?
Well, my biggest competitor is an ex-Harper brush man.
Oh, really? And who does he represent now?
Well, he's got a brand XYZ
Mhm.
copycat.
Okay.
Some of the stuff is pretty decent, but the quality isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's close enough that some of them still think he's a Harper man.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And then they're surprised to find out that he isn't.
Oh, because, all right, so he's kind of working with knockoff products and representing himself as the same guy.
Yeah, it's
that
the same
carry-
guy, but he says he's not a Harper man. He doesn't claim to be a Harper man.
Mhm.
But in their mind, he is, see,
Right.
because he did that for a while.
Yes.
And
So, interesting thing is he's bringing that reputation along with him, even though he doesn't represent us anymore, which shows you that.
The thing is I'm a retread, because I'm calling on the same customers that I used to call on 25 years ago,
Mhm.
a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a shop last week in Savannah, Missouri. I walked in there and I knew it was the same shop, and I knew it was the old man and the son that run it.
Mm-hmm.
And I walks in there and I sees the old man sitting on a thing by the wood stove. And I says, is there anybody around here that'll wear out a Harper brush? And I hear this little voice say, it is the same guy.
That's funny. Yes.
And here comes this guy out from around the car from the other side. It was the son.
Oh, that's funny.
I hadn't seen him for 20 years.
But he remembered the Harper brush guy.
Yes.
Yes, that's very interesting. Okay. How about you? You face any real key competitors out there or not?
We find that we are our own competitor.
And what do you mean that tell me a different way so I understand it. We're our own competitors.
We don't look at other competitors as a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
The only competition we have is ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Getting the willingness to get out there.
Got it. All right. So we're having a common theme develop here. Al, you're too new to know. And well, how about you, Rick? Who do you think your competitors are?
I have to agree with Sean somewhat. I mean, in Des Moines, there are some other people out there calling. We've got some sanitary supply houses, and Brusky Brush is another company that actually pushes brooms and only brooms. And they're in the Des Moines area. But I think the farther away from metropolitan areas you get, you do run out of competition. I mean, most of those guys don't want to travel.
Yeah.
Which is an advantage for, Ron or, and they're not nationally covered either, I don't think. There's parts of the country where they have coverage, and they're not like us, I don't think.
What we're learning here, and this is a very powerful concept, is that unlike so many other industries where there's tremendous competition, we don't have that much. And if you go back to what Sean was saying about we save you time, 1,041 products, we come to you, we service it, and we're going to be back next week, and all those, not necessarily next week, but we're going to come back when you need us, and we're going to actually develop that relationship with you and bring you back to the truck and give it to you right now, the good stuff when you need it. There's nobody out there doing it. And so our job is to figure out, okay, what their needs are, what they're going to buy, and then convince them that the best way to do it is to work with us. And so that's a great position to be in. Unlike if you're Lowe's and Home Depot, those guys are killing each other all the time. Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, they're just killing each other on price all the time. Or if you're in a commodity type business, like imagine if you were in the copier business, right? Sharp, Ricoh, Minolta, Toshiba, they're all the same. Or imagine if you were in the computer business, Dell, Compaq. I mean, it's just, it's a brutal business. It's hyper competition. And that's why so many of those companies lose money, millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, trying to compete with each other on price. We're in a great position in that we have that unique value-added component based on what we're starting to develop as our guiding principle. The products, we're there when you need us, we save you time, we got it right now, right on the truck. So there really is no pure competition. There's nobody you can say, I'm just like Harper, even though the guy tries to be in Ron's area, the old Harper guy. Okay,
And
so
one of the old rooms here, Warren, just
Mhm.
we've got a collection of competitors' products, but
Mhm.
this is Milwaukee Dusters, Jerry, is that right? And of course, their claim to fame is you can turn the handle and,
Mhm.
well, you're supposed to be and sweep with it at any angle and kind of a reverse situation.
Mhm.
But I'm sure some of you guys, guys have probably all seen these, maybe not Al, but you haven't seen that one. And they're not that much. I mean, they're a couple of bucks cheaper than a Harper, but not that much.
It's just not, it's a narrower brush, it doesn't sweep
Yeah,
as well, it
that's right.
doesn't release, there's millions of things that we can sell against it.
Yeah, mhm.
We can come up with a dozen things,
Mhm.
but just to give you a visual of
Yeah,
the competition, or
that's
what
right.
somebody might perceive to be the competition.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks, Sean. All right, and if you look at the bottom of page 11, customers are the lifeblood of anyone's business. If we're new to the territory, our first job is to get to know those customers. People buy from people. Let's keep remembering that. People buy from people. The biggest sale you're going to make is the sale of yourself. First, people buy you, then they want to know who you represent, then they want to look at the products. So all the things that you do are basically reflected in the way you relate to your customer base. So if you're happy to be there and you're friendly and you've got a smile on your face, then they feel good about you. If you're tentative or unsure about yourself, then they're going to feel tentative and unsure about working with you. So you have to remember that people buy from people. They see you coming in the door, they know you're a salesperson, right? And that's okay. And our job is to make it comfortable for them to buy from us. And there's another saying in sales that's very true, and that is that people love to buy, but they hate to be what? Sold, right? And so we're the opposite of flash. We're not flashy. We don't go in there and try and, just to overwhelm them with pizzazz. We're basically, it's a kind of a meat and potatoes, bread and butter type business. And if you keep following those guiding principles, that we've got the good stuff, it's right here, right now, and we're experts in what we do, and we are here for you to help you solve your cleaning problems, that's what's going to endear those customers to you and get them to buy it not only the first time, but over and over and over again. Okay? So that's what, go ahead.
In our industry, obviously, but during our training, Al was telling us that I don't want to get the number wrong, it's either his 12th or 13th new vehicle from the same salesman, because they trust each other, they like each other, and that's just that many vehicles. Every time he wants a new car, he goes to that same salesman.
Isn't that amazing?
Same way here.
That's right.
They like you, trust you, believe in you, they'll buy from you.
I agree with you, and we all have those experiences. If you find a good place to service your vehicles, you keep going back there over and over and over again because you trust them and you know what you're going to get. They're not flashy, they're not up one week, down the next week. It's consistent, day after day type great service. I mean, in the old days, I don't know the way it is now, but in the old days, so many travelers, when they were traveling the interstates, wanted to stop at McDonald's. And what was the key thing? Had nothing to do with the food. Why did all these families with children want to stop at McDonald's? Everybody remember?
Great for kids.
Consistency. Yeah, that was actually the second reason.
Our grandkids wanted the free gift.
Well, the main reason people stopped there, and they basically positioned themselves as the place where they always had clean bathrooms. And if you were the mothers with the little kids, you didn't want to have to stop at the gas station. You never knew what you were going to get there, Would you take your children in there? But you'd stop at McDonald's and go to the bathroom. And then while you were there, then what'd you do?
Got something to eat.
Got something to eat, consistent product. You always knew a Big Mac was going to be a Big Mac. A fish sandwich was always a fish sandwich. But they positioned themselves as the place to come back to because they were always going to have clean bathrooms. In fact, it was part of their training manual that's what kept bringing people back. And
Remember
what
when they came out,
I'm sorry?
just to keep on the same line of McDonald's, remember when they came out with the Arch Deluxe?
I remember hearing about it, but I don't know much about it.
Well, they never did. There was a big thing in the advertising, but they couldn't figure out how to position it. It was like a grown-up sandwich, and they were trying to figure out, how to do it and all that. And of course, it was a huge failure. And of course, they don't sell it today, but there was no positioning there. There was they were trying to figure it out, but they never did get it figured out.
Yeah. That's, now I remember that, right? They were trying to turn it into, and they realized that McDonald's stands for families, and that's why, people don't come in thinking I'm going to wear my best clothes today so I can get an Arch Deluxe, you know what I mean? They want a Big Mac and fries. Yeah, interesting. Okay, questions about that? Okay, let's look at the next tab. This is called sales planning. And sales planning becomes important because we really need to know where we're going every day and how we're going to get there. And so many times I work with salespeople, and what I recognize is that the reason they're not successful enough, or they're not as successful as they could be, is because they're wasting their time. They're wasting their time. They're not planning their day. And this came up actually when we were having the distributor advisors on the phones with us. They even said, you know, well, nowadays they say, I've got a pretty mature territory. I go where the action is. So if I think I'm heading west today, but my best customer in the south calls me, I'm going south. And I said, well, I understand that, but what was it like when you started? And they always come back to the fact that when they were new in the business, they had an organized plan. They went to the northwest part of their territory on the first Monday of each month. Then they went to the central area. They had a way to work their plan. And where it says here, the myth of the star salesperson, how many people would relate to this type of story? Let's say your office is up here, and you really wanted to work in that part of the territory today, but then somebody down here calls you and says, can you get down there? And we need to really talk about some problems I'm having. Can you help me out? So all of a sudden, we head way down to the southeast corner of our territory. And then we realized that the way our day was scheduled, we were supposed to be up here, so we get back in the vehicle and we drive all the way back up here. And then while we're there, we remember that there's a guy over here that we thought we were going to get to the last time we were through that area, but we forgot, and we know that he really needs product in the next day or so, so boom, we head over here. And then we say, you know what, who's that on my cell phone? Hey, that's my best customer down there. They need me, and all of a sudden I'm down there. And then it's the end of the day, and you say, well, I might as well just drive back to my office. How many times has that happened to all of us? You know, we start out with what we think is a pretty good plan, and then pretty soon we're spending way too much time driving around, not enough time being in front of customers. Happens to all of us. And so this is a bad way to do business. Because the only real thing we have to exchange in the marketplace, I mean, let's look at it. Well, how do we say we're positioning ourselves with our customer base? We save them time. What's really the only thing that we have to offer our customers? Our time. Yes, product knowledge and all those, yep, you have to have all that, but basically, if you're not in front of them on a face-to-face basis, you're getting nowhere fast. So really, the only commodity that we have that's scarce is time. Product knowledge is unlimited, our prospect base is unlimited. The scarce resource is our time. So the reason we do sales planning is to make sure that we have an understanding of where we're going to be. Let's say this could be Monday, this could be Tuesday, this could be Wednesday, this could be Thursday, or this could be Friday. Or this could be a region where you focus a week at a time in the northwestern part or northeastern part of your territory, and then a week down here. We all have to be able to figure out, okay, what's the best way to manage that time? How should we spend our precious resource called time in the most effective manner? And the way I look at it, if you look at the bottom of page 12, is I prioritize not only by geography, but I organize by the account size, how much business I think that I'm going to generate from that particular customer. Just trying to look ahead for a minute. Okay, let me just talk about something that's not in the notes, but I think it's important to have there. And that is a very specific way to prioritize your accounts. And let me share with you the way I do it, and you tell me if this makes sense to you. I look at my customer base and I say to myself, in terms of actual or potential revenue, does this person represent what I would say the top 10 or 20% of my customer base? So for example, Ron, that convenience store chain, based on actual or potential revenue, would you consider them an A or a B account? Somebody that represents a lot of business to you in a calendar year?
Probably an A.
Probably an A, right? So the first thing I look at is revenue in terms of how much revenue am I going to generate, and it's either actual, here's historically how much that account bought for me, or it's potential. I don't get a lot today, but if I got a lot of that business, it could be huge. So that's the first thing I rank in terms of, is the revenue there for me to go out and pursue this particular business? And now again, this is just the way I do it. The second thing I look at is profit. Is this account profitable or not? So maybe you've got the situation like Brian talked about earlier. Maybe there's a great company in Indianapolis or the surrounding area that has tremendous revenue potential, but every time he goes out there, they keep trying to beat him up on price. I can get the same thing for 30% less. If you're not going to give it to me for 30% less, don't come back. So that would be something that would be not profitable business. So you either have to say to yourself, can I generate reasonable margins in this account, or can't I? So that's the second thing I look at, is profit. The third thing I look at is what I call loyalty. Loyalty of the revenue. Is this the type of organization that buys once a year and doesn't really care about developing a relationship with me? Or is this the type of company where I can keep coming back, every 3 months, every 4 months, every 2 months, whatever it is, that it's going to be recurring revenue? Okay? So that's the third aspect that I look at. The fourth aspect I look at is name recognition. If someone says to you, who do you do business with, can I very proudly say, here are the companies I'm associated with? If you're going into a newer town and they say, who are 3 of the companies you're doing business with, and you mention 3 of the coolest places in town, or 3 of the most important manufacturing plants in town, that's going to get the attention of all the other people in that community. So name recognition, is it a positive for you or not? That's the fourth criteria that I use. And the last criteria I use is referral. Meaning, is there opportunity for me to generate internal referrals where they send me from one department within a larger company to another? Or is it like the guy who was raking on the side of the road where he happened to have sold his business to the new guy and there was a referral right there to go over to the guy right across the street? That'd be an external referral. So now that I have a way of prioritizing in my mind whether an account is going to be good for me to call on or not, I simply do a very simple scoring system. So Rick, give me the name of a customer, any customer you've got.
Kraft Foods.
Kraft Foods. So in terms of revenue, actual or potential, would you say yes or no, that it has good revenue, actual or potential, or not good revenue, actual or potential?
Actually.
Okay, so that would be, the way you score this is either a 1 or a 0. So in terms of revenue, they get a 1. Is that profitable business? Do you make good margins on that business?
Fair.
Fair? Okay, so is it a 1 or a 0?
It's a 1.
Okay. How about...
Just a standard discount. And
oh, okay.
price is not an issue. Availability is.
Okay.
Service.
All right. So in terms of loyalty, is that something you can keep going back over and over again and generate additional business?
We're working on it.
Okay.
I mean, their needs have been changing. They're switching more to the food service stuff, and we're trying to work with them to keep them supplied. with
Okay.
those things.
So a 1 or a 0 in terms of if you have those products, would they be a loyal customer, do you think?
Yeah, I
Okay.
would say so.
Name recognition, what do you think? 1 or 0?
I've never heard of Kraft before.
If somebody said, well, who do you do business with in town? You say Kraft Foods, I'd say it counts. And how about referral? Is there other departments within Kraft you could call on, or is it there's
No.
not? Okay.
Not stuck.
All right. So on a scale of what's our total points here out of 5?
4 points.
They get a 4. And so anything that is a 4 or a 5 in my book, that's an A. That's an A prospect or an A account. Anybody that has 3 points, they're a B. Anybody that has 2 or less, 2 or 1 point, they're a C. Why bother? That's the way I look at it. And so now if I can have a quick and dirty way to rate my customers, then I can decide where I'm going to spend my time. And I'll tell you what, the most dramatic changes I've been able to make in some of my customers' businesses is by looking over their account base and by saying to them, you know what, I'm looking over your accounts and I think you're spending way too much time with your C's. Do yourself and do me a favor. These bottom 60% of your customer base, just take them over from where your current calling schedule and plop them over here. I'm not saying don't sell them anymore, but if you've been going there once a month or once a quarter, change from once a month to once a quarter, change from once a quarter to twice a year, and the time you're going to pick up, go after your prospects that have 4 or 5 of these criteria. Go after the prospects that have A or B potential and let those C accounts that are dragging you down, they're not generating enough revenue to make it profitable for you, don't call on them as often Actually, face your fear and go out and find brand new people to call on, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you can grow your business. I've had one situation, a guy who was in the investment banking business, where he had 1,600 accounts. And I said, you know, from what I know about your business, the people that are the best in your business, they don't have more than 200 accounts. So here's what I want to do. Give me your bottom 1,400 accounts. This is back in the day before, it was pre-computer, so everything was on cards, index cards, alphabetized. I said, give me the 1,400 cards, and I will have them. You know, my office is only 30 minutes away from your office. If you have a tremendous, urgent, pressing need, I'll bring those boxes back to you. But what I want you to do is take that energy, trying to work with 1,600 total accounts, focus the 1,400 accounts I'm taking away on the 200 accounts you already have, and see what happens. Well, a month went by, and he didn't need any of those cards. 2 months went by, he didn't want any of those cards. 3 months went by, he said, don't you dare bring those cards back to me. Because he found that focusing on his A and B accounts is where the money is. And so that's what I'm getting at. And what happens is, in sales, we crave, as salespeople, there's something that we really like about being salespeople, and that's soliciting an answer that we really like hearing. And what's that answer called?
Yes.
Yes. We love the yes. And if we know that we can call on good old Charlie, and we're going to spend 30 minutes there, it's going to be a great appointment, he loves us, we love him, and then Charlie ends up buying, you know, he's placing a big order today. He's going to buy 2 of these, right? And last time we were there, we spent 30 minutes with him, he only bought 1. But we feel good about Charlie. Why? He always says yes. So we keep going back there. And what's the retail value of this is a grill brush, right? Grill brush or whatever?
Tire brush.
Tire brush, thank you. So what's the retail value of a tire brush? $5. So we drive over there. How much do we make an hour when Charlie bought 2 tire brushes from us? Don't tell me. Right. And so, but we liked going there. Why? Because Charlie's a good old boy, and he's nice to us, and he buys from us. So all I'm saying is, yeah, that's cool. Let's find, instead of going after Charlie, let's find Charlie's brother, Phil, who works at Kraft Foods. That's all I'm saying. And don't fall into the temptation of saying everybody's a great prospect, because you have to stratify. You have to really focus your attention on smaller and smaller amounts of people. In fact, over time, you figure I've been in business 15 years, you think my main database of good customers and good prospects would have grown over time, wouldn't you think? Right? You've been in business a long time, your prospect and customer base should be growing. But actually, the people that I call on actively has been reduced. From when I started, there were 1,000 businesses in my main database. Then I got to 700, then I got to 400. There are 350 company/contact names in my main database today. I've got, the mass mail database where I capture email addresses and get them involved in my ongoing internet newsletter. But as far as the core people that I call on, it's 350 people/companies. And that's after being in business for, 15 years. I could have thousands. And I've literally worked with tens of thousands of salespeople, but I only call on, whatever. What's 350 out of 30,000? Is it 1% or maybe 1/10 of 1%? That's the whole idea about having some type of focus on sales planning, knowing where you're going to go and why you're going there. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. All right, so turn to page 13. I want to talk about the difference between urgent and important. And this is a discussion that is right out of one of my favorite books. I was talking about this on my radio show yesterday, my 3 favorite books. One of my favorite books is called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. You like that book also, don't you? It came out in 1989. It's been on the bestseller list ever since. And, pardon me?
He was a bestseller for years.
Yeah. It's still on the New York Times bestseller list, even though it's been on the market for 13 years. He talks about a discussion that he calls urgent and important. And so I think it's a very important thing to talk about. There are tasks that are important, there are tasks that are urgent. And either it is important, yes, or it's not important, no. Either it is urgent, yes, or it's not important, no. So let's take care of the easiest things first. If your best customer calls and says, I need you to be down here tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I've got a large order I need to be placed, we're having a plant shutdown over the weekend, I need 30 of your best push brooms. Is that important to you? Yes. Is that urgent?
Yes.
Yes. So that is urgent and important. That's called quadrant 1. And if that person called and said, can you be here at 3 o'clock with 30 of your best push brooms, would you say yes? You betcha, as we say in Minnesota. So that is the easiest one. If it's yes important, yes urgent, you do it. There's no negotiation. That's just something that's important to you. It's urgent, you do it. Now let's look at the other part of the spectrum, quadrant 4, something that's not important, not urgent. So an example of something that's not important, let's say anybody in the room likes soap operas? No, we don't. Richard does. Richard likes soap operas. Okay, Richard's the photographer for those of you who are watching on film. Okay, so soap operas aren't important to us. And so there's a soap opera on every day at noon. It's called All My Children. Now it's urgent for us to watch that soap opera if we're into that. So from our standpoint, is that important to us? No. Is there any urgency around that? No. So if something is a quadrant 4 activity, not important, not urgent, we don't do it. Actually, I have a confession to make. I am mean to telemarketers who call me at my office. Because to me, they're not important. I have a very small, simple business. There's nothing I need. I don't need long-distance services. I don't need insurance programs. I don't need Pitney Bowes postage machines. My business has been the same. I set it up 15 years ago. It's the same today as it was then. As far as how I manage my business, maybe the technology has changed. I've got email now where I used to use snail mail. But generally speaking, my business is very self-sufficient, easy to run. It runs while I'm out of town, right? I've set it up that way. And so all these people that call me, as soon as if I get a name from someone I've never heard before, I say, now can you tell me, who are you? Why are you calling? Because I want to find out if it's a prospect, right? Or if it's a referral from a customer. And as soon as I know it's somebody trying to sell me something, I say, you know what? I have no need. I'm not interested. Good luck on your next call. And then I hang up. I disconnect before they even face the first objection from me. Because from my standpoint, not urgent, not important. Don't bother. Same thing for me, television. Not important, not urgent. Don't mind it, don't like it, don't watch it, except during NCAA basketball season. I'm a college basketball fanatic. So you will find me in front of the TV when the NCAAs are on TV. That's a true statement. But 50 weeks out of the year, that has no importance to me. Never seen Roseanne, wherever the shows are, ER, Dawson's Creek, Friends, never seen any of those shows. Okay, not important, not urgent. We didn't have a TV until my older daughter was 9. I had a 9-inch Sony TV I had in college, a 9-inch Sony TV. And so it was in the closet somewhere, and I said, okay, we're going to let my children watch something on PBS. So we brought out the TV, plugged it in, turned it on, it worked. But the TV, I got it in 1969, so it was kind of old, and the color wasn't that good anymore. So I went to Best Buy, and I bought a 21-inch Panasonic television screen. And when I put it in front of my children, their eyes got huge because they were used to looking at this 9-inch Sony, watching their little videos and all that. Bring home a 21-inch diagonal, state-of-the-art Panasonic TV. I knew the power of the medium because you could sell. They were just drawn. They were just sucked right into it. So we don't watch too much TV at home. We watch videos. Okay, so that's that. Now these are the two quadrants that are the most important for us to recognize, because there are a whole lot of things that are not important, but they are urgent, and we tend to work on those things. Give me an example. I'll give you an example. Knock on the door. That's urgent, right? That's the knock on the door. It's urgent. We say, all right, come on in. We're having a meeting. It's very important for us to have this meeting, but you're knocking the door. Come on in. So in walks a guy with really big black hair and huge sideburns. He's got a rhinestone suit on with a big buckle. He's got this Memphis kind of drawl, and he's holding in his hands likenesses of himself in green velvet. It's Velvet Elvis. So here he is in our conference room and trying to sell us Velvet Elvis tapestries. So that's urgent, right? Because he was at the door, urgent, knocking on our door. Is that important for us that he's here? No. Unless you're Sean and you collect those things and you say, you know, that green one I don't have, you know. I've got it in red and black, but I don't have the green one. How many times do we respond to the urgencies that really aren't that important? It's incredible how much time we spend in this quadrant. Now we got to knock on the door again. All right, another interruption. Come on in. This time there's kind of a, we don't know who it is, man or woman, because they're all covered in this this yellow rubberized suit. They're breathing through a mask. They got a helmet on with a light flashing out. Got an axe in one hand and a big hose on the other hand. And they say, through this voice mask thing, they say, you know, follow me. There's been a train accident over here. Hydrochloric acid is coming this way along with sulfuric acid and benzene. We need to all get in this van that has air temperature control. We're going to take you out of town. Urgent?
Yeah.
Important?
Yeah, really.
Yes. Yeah, really important if you want to live. So we have to respond not to necessarily the urgency. The knock on the door is the urgency. The phone that rings is the urgency. The person says, I need this right now. That's the urgency. Our job is to evaluate importance first and urgency second. And we tend to do the opposite. We tend to do the opposite. And so let's talk about something that is important but not urgent. Give me an example of something that's really important but there's no sense of urgency associated with it in sales.
Guy calls, distributor or customer calls, and he's 100 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's important that you take care of it, but
Mm-hmm.
he wants a $5 brush.
Right. Okay, so it's the 100-mile away guy. It's important, but it's not urgent. So how do you respond to that person? What could you do instead of driving 100 miles for the $5 brush? What could you do?
Let me check my calendar and I'll see when I'm going to be out there.
There we go. Let me check my calendar. Let me see when I'm going to be out there. What else could we do? That's a great idea, Rick. What else?
UPS.
Right. Let me send it out to you by UPS. And by the way, what else do you need, right? And let me make a note that the next time I'm there, if you buy that, you might want to look at this also. So I'll make a note to show it to you the next time I'm there. So you turn that urgency into taking care of that customer without dropping everything to drive 100 miles for the $5 brush. Another example of something that is important but not urgent is the A prospect. The A prospect. Is it important for us to find tomorrow's $10,000 account or $8,000 account? What do you think? The answer is yes. But are they sitting by their phone waiting for us to show up today? That if you don't show up at that A prospect account today, you're never going to get it? No. So these are incredibly important activities, but they're not urgent. Now, long term, if you avoided your A prospects for 10 years, the urgency is going to creep up on you because you're going to have all this unsold inventory and nobody to sell it to. But in the short term, these are the activities that tend to get buried. You're driving frantically from one account to the next, you don't have time, and then all of a sudden you're in the town 2 months later, or 2 weeks later, or 6 weeks later, and you're passing up some top prospects because you're focused on all the things that are not necessarily important but are urgent. I got to stop over there and drop off that one handle brace. You know what I mean? And we tend to do that because we want to be service-oriented, but in the meantime, we're driving by huge opportunities because we're focused on the minutia. So I suggest to you is that the point of this exercise is to figure out what Stephen Covey calls quadrant 2 activities. How do you enhance your ability to get quadrant 2 activities done? This is quadrant 3. So for example, go ahead, Al.
This is really very interesting to me because it's something that I know I personally have been guilty of forever, always.
Mm-hmm.
You don't mean for it to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
You don't mean for it to happen, but it does. And I dare say that there's not a salesman in the business that sells anything, I don't care what, that's not guilty of it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a majority of you selling time.
Mm-hmm.
We all mean well. I don't know there's a salesman out here that we don't mean well. We always plan our time, and we want to get the most out of our day.
Mm-hmm.
But if everybody was honest, they'd probably have to say that 70 to 80% of your time you're still doing it no matter how hard you try.
I know.
And that to me is probably one of the most important factors of making effective
Mm-hmm.
selling. But
I agree with you.
to see the one on the chart like that, it almost hits you right in the nose.
Oh, I know.
Me personally, I can tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, the first time I saw that, I was in the Seattle airport, stranded in the Seattle airport in the January of 1990, I guess it was. And I was trying to get to Vancouver, but I couldn't. There was fog or whatever, and so I was meeting my wife there the next day, so I wasn't going to go all the way to a hotel and then not get on the next flight out in the morning, which was like 5:30 in the morning. So I went to the bookstore and I bought Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and from 11 o'clock at night till 4 or 5 the next morning, I read that book. And that, when I found that, you're right, it just hit me right in the head like a 2x4.
The problem is that I've read it, I've seen it, I realize it, and I'm guilty of it. Truly
Yes.
guilty of it.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, I'm still guilty of it.
Yes.
I still do it.
Mhm.
I don't want to,
Mhm.
but there's so many things so many other factors will enter into this equation that causes you to still do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's the unfortunate thing about selling, because it
Yeah.
does take a lot of discipline
Mhm.
to separate yourself from that.
Yeah, and the only way I can respond to that, the only thing that's worked for me over the years is that, well, I do two things. The first thing is, when I'm completing a day, so let's say I'm at the end of a day, I look at the things that I feel are the most important for me to accomplish the following day. So I'm looking at, okay, today is Thursday, what are the most important things I need to accomplish tomorrow, Friday? And the way I find that out is I look at the goals I've set for myself. I'll have to find, where's that? I had a box that had stuff in it. I wanted to move it out of camera shot. Oh, there it is.
That's all right, Richard.
I had a box. I found the box. The way I do that is I have my goals written down for the year, and so every night when I'm getting through with the day, I look at the goals I've set for myself, okay? So that's where it starts from in terms of revenue or what you're trying to accomplish or whatever. So I look at those goals, and then I say, all right, now I'm coming into tomorrow. Here's all these things, all these promises I've made to all these people. Send this out, stop here, call them, do this, do that. I compare it to my list of goals, right? The things that are most important to me. And then, here's what happens at least 80% of the time. You look at tomorrow's list, there's not one thing on there that's going to move you closer to your long-term goal. It's all that velvet Elvises at the door, you know? All this stuff. And then I say, okay, no matter what happens, come heck or high water, tomorrow morning, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on one activity that's going to get me closer to a long-term goal. That's it. So if that means calling an A prospect, or if that means, so for example, when I was writing my book, right? The first hour of the day, I would sit by my computer and I would work on writing part of my book. Because for years I wanted to have a book, and I'd say, put it on the list, you know, pick up dry cleaning, call Ralph, hug the kids, write book. And so obviously nothing ever got done on the book, because by the time you called Ralph, picked up the dry cleaning, and hugged the kids, were you going to sit down and write a book in an hour? So I had to figure out a way to systematize that to get it down to small chunks. So what I do is I do prospecting activities the first thing every morning. Even before I came over here at 8 o'clock, I was emailing some people that are in my funnel, people I'm trying to get business from, and that was what I did before I came here at 7:45 this morning. So I planted the seeds for those people to hopefully respond via email while I'm away, or if not, I'll call them tomorrow. So the only way out of this box is to schedule those high A, what I call high payoff, high priority activities, and then you have to have the discipline to do just one of them. So I invest whatever that is, the first 20 or 30 minutes of every day, in me, in my business, in my goals. And then after I do that, I have no problem having all the urgencies come my way, because I know I've done one thing that's going to put me on a path to succeed in the future. It's the only way I've been able to do it over the years. Now, do I do that every day? No. Do I do it 4 days a week? No. Do I do it 3 days a week? Yes. So my standard is that 3 days every week, I will do something that's most important to me first. It's the only way that I've been able to work that out.
Yeah. After all these years in sales, I have to admit that's the first time I've seen it presented this way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, it does hit you right in the face, and
Mm-hmm.
it happens always. But after today, I will make me a little, just a small one,
Mhm.
scale model of this.
Mhm.
I'm just going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, important and urgent.
Mhm.
And that's all I'm going to put on it. And it's going to be on my desk. And as a reminder, every time the phone rings, or every time somebody comes to see me, or every time I'm gonna, you know, it's gonna be there.
Mhm.
And then I can mentally go, okay, is it important? Is it urgent? And
Mhm.
it doesn't take long. I can see where you can quick go through that and say,
Mhm.
okay, I've gotta do it, but I'm not gonna do it right now.
Mhm.
Or, yes, I have to do this right
Yeah.
now. There's
Mhm.
one of the distributors just called in, and he's at a customer. Now,
Mhm.
I've got urgent things here too, but he's urgent.
Yeah,
He's more urgent.
right, he's more urgent, yeah. He's important and more urgent, yeah. And sometimes, you know, it's, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not selfish, right? But it is self-centered. There's a difference. Selfish is me, me, me. Self-centered is I'm trying to center myself around the things that are important to me. A classic example, last night I was at dinner, and a woman who when the weather's bad, I run indoors. We have a recreation center with treadmills and elliptical trainers, and so I work out indoors. If it's too cold, too rainy, I'm one of those people, if the weather's not perfect, I'm not running outdoors, unless it's a race, then I have no choice. Last night we're at dinner, and a woman who I've seen probably 40 times at the rec center is talking to my wife at the dinner. And I knew this woman. I know her by her face and actually by the biomechanics, how she runs, because I observe other runners. She said to my wife, you know, your husband must be really shy, because I've seen him 40 times at the rec center and he's never talked to me. Now, on a scale of shy to gregarious and outgoing, shy doesn't even exist in my vocabulary, never has since the time I was verbal. I mean, I'm one of those, I'm out there. I'll know everybody's name in a business setting in 5 minutes. But when I go to the rec center, why am I there?
Work out.
I'm there to work out, right? I only have so many minutes of the day. She could be the nicest person in the world, but she's not on my radar screen. She's not important or urgent to me, right? I'm married with 2 kids. That's one of the reasons why she's not urgent or important. The other thing is that's what I'm not there for that. So it was really funny. My wife said to me afterwards, you know, it's so much like you to, you know, be so focused on what you're doing when you're doing it that the rest of the world doesn't exist. A lot of people probably think you're rude. Sorry. I go to the rec center to work out. I have no desire to find out more about this person's life. She's not a customer. She's not a prospect. Now, Sean might disagree because he could probably sell her some brushes, but that's the point of understanding the difference between urgent and important. That's a classic example. And so at dinner, I got to know her a little bit, and I was right. I mean, she's a housewife. She has no business contacts, is not a native of Fairfield, doesn't work has no connections to any cities where I travel to. So my intuition to not get to know her was actually right on, because there was no referral source there. Anyway, so it's real important. It's a very important concept. And that book, by the way, is probably the best book ever written on how to live your life. That's why it's sold so many, literally millions and millions of copies. And even though it was copyright 1989, if you look on the New York Times bestseller list for last week, it's still on there. Now it's probably down in the in the 80s out of 100, but it's that many copies of that book are sold every week. Okay, the next point, inventory management. You all covered that earlier in the week, yes? It's part of what you all did during the training. The reason we put it in here in the sales training book is to let you know how important it is to control your inventory. If you get to the point where the only reason you're not going to be successful in this business is you got the wrong stuff on the truck and you're out of money and you can't invest in the right inventory, then we've done a terrible disservice to you. Because we need to know that you have the stuff out there that's selling, and we need to make sure you're loaded up with the right stuff. And so your job, your independent business people, is to make sure that you've got good, clean, saleable inventory and the stuff that moves in your territory. And if you made a mistake and you got the wrong stuff there, you need to talk to Jerry or somebody to refocus or whatever the word is, something, that inventory, to get it back to where it's supposed to be. Doesn't mean we have unlimited return privileges for the next 50 years, but we need to rebalance occasionally some of those inventory concerns.
Part of it, like the radiant systems, we categorize it, that's your A line.
Mm-hmm.
Your car truck wash brushes is an A line, your floor squeegees is an A line, your upright brooms is an A line.
Mm-hmm.
You go back over to that brush we talked about this morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's in our line, it's saleable, but that's a C.
Yeah.
I mean, so you can categorize A, B, and C,
Mm-hmm.
and then so you keep the A, the important items that's going, the A items that are going to generate the most dollars for you. That's where you want your money tied up because they're going to turn more often.
Yeah.
Those are what we covered.
Absolutely, and that is a very important concept because in addition to being a good salesperson, you need to be good business people. You need to be good inventory managers. You don't want to have too many of your assets tied up in non-moving, obsolete merchandise. So your job is to always have the A item on the truck, most of the time have the B item, and with the C items, they don't, they'll say, hey, that looks like a pretty cool thing, I was in your catalog, great. Do you need it right away? I'll send it out to you by UPS, otherwise I'll order it. Next time I see you, I'll bring it. And that's what we're talking about. It's a very critical thing in your business because you are independent business people. It's not on consignment, right? So if you buy it, you own it. So we don't want your dollars being tied up in unsaleable inventory. It's up to you to be counseled by us so you know what the heck I should have. Especially new guys, right, Al? You need to know what the heck you better have down there in Florida. And there could be a time we need to balance it with you because, best guess is we gave you Iowa information and you're traveling in Florida. I mean, that would be the worst case scenario. You've got somebody who's been in the business how many years?
About 10.
10. So, obviously he knows what to keep, and you've been in and out of the business, and Rick, you've got a couple years experience, but heck, Jerry's got 18 years experience. He knows, and Sean's out there every day, and he knows. So there's resources to help you. Okay, managing your territory. I'm a big fan of measurement from the salesperson's perspective, and so you have to know how you are doing in terms of your statistics. And so the first thing is called the prospect sheet, and that is an understanding of who are those A prospects, who are those A accounts, are they listed alphabetically, how do you keep track of all those people? That's why we've provided for you the notebook that the four of you have in front of you. What's it called? What do we title it? Harper Brushworks Sales Call Planner, okay? And so what that means is, if you turn to the opening part of this page, of this book, you see a blank form that's been created for you. And this is a very cool, very simple form that you can use with your customer base. All you do is put the name and the company name, information like phone number, we put company address, phone, contact, and email, and then running down the left side of the page, you have the date of when you called on them, and running across the right side of the page, you have a column that looks like this.
They don't have it.
They don't have it?
We're gonna hand one out. Oh, you got one. You got yours?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I know why Al doesn't.
Oh, we need a new one for
We'll
it.
take his back to the room.
Oh, okay.
I forgot time to bring him.
Not a problem.
Sorry about that.
All right, so, but, okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's cool. And so this is a great way for you to manage that time in the field. This is a form that I used in the 1970s when I was in the distribution business, just like you are all in today. And you can automate this. You can figure out a way to do this on an Excel spreadsheet if you want. But you're out there in the field working with these people every day. This is a remarkably simple and effective tool. Now, where this would be is in the notebook you've got that says A to Z. So if you're at the Brown Company, you go to B, and there's the information on Brown. You can even carry the notebook in with you, or you can just take that individual sheet of paper, and moving across the right side of the page, it shows on hand and how many were ordered. So let's say you were on the date known as today, 3/27/02, they had one on hand, and you helped them buy 6. And then you go back there on June 13th, 02, and there were none on hand, and they say, I've been out of them for 2 months, and then you say, well, you know what, let's go with 12 this time. And then over time, you get to be the inventory manager for your customers. And as you work across the page, you can see buying history as far as each individual item. Then your goal is to move across the page, making as many calls as you can on that customer, and then work down the page, introducing new ideas. So as you work down the page, it should be growing, and the list over time should look like this, right, as you start to fill in more and more blanks over time. So it's an amazingly powerful tool that you can use in the field, and when you're in the truck right before you make that call, you can say, if they buy this, 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 and this, I should be showing that, 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 and that. So it gives you a way to cross-sell the account when you have a chance to be out there face-to-face. So that's what the prospect sheet is. Tracking report, that's the one that you can submit your calls to Maxine, right? You can get them all listed for you so you can see what your activities are and how efficient you are out in the field. Schedule your week a minimum of 1 week in advance. That's so you avoid being the star salesperson. And yes, sometimes shit happens, excuse my French, that's what the bumper sticker says. Sometimes you need to change, but if you're changing all the time, then you're back to responding to urgencies, not important things. So you ought to be able to stick to a schedule most of the time. Your job is to save your customer time. Anything you can do to save yourself time is a good thing. And that's why we have to be organized. We're going to talk about that after the break as far as how we go about managing that aspect of our business. So that clock is the official clock again. That one says 10:14. Let's take a 15-minute break and come back at 10:29 by that clock. 10:29 by that clock. Give you time to, was 15 minutes enough last time? Make your calls and do whatever that you need to do?
Okay for them.
Yeah. Back, everyone. We're going to move on to the bulk of why we're here today as far as our part of the Harper Sales Training Program, and that starts on tab 6 and with your page 14. If you look at the middle of page 14, actually down towards the bottom, if you want me to start over, I will. Okay. All right, if you look at towards the middle part of page 14, it says, here's what we're going to learn. We were trying to figure out what are all the fundamental selling skills that we need to focus on in order to make our job as salespeople be most effective. And so just take a quick minute and look over that list, and I'll shut up while you look at it. Okay, so you look over that list of items. If you were out there in the field doing these things in that order, do you think that would be a reasonable process to be able to help you be successful out in the field? Yeah. Yeah, we've looked at all the different ways you could slice and dice the sales process and basically came up with this list. My job is right now to kind of find out, what questions do you have about any of these topics? If you were to prioritize these, for example, as far as where you think we should spend our energy, what are the most important topics to you on this list? So just anybody speak up whenever you feel like it.
Asking the right questions.
Asking the right questions, yes. And it's hard to do that because too many times we feel like we should be talking, telling them things. It's a myth about selling. People think that selling is telling, but it really isn't. Selling is asking the right questions. So give me some examples. Hey, Sean, tell us what you ask when you go in and meet with people for the first time.
Where's the checkbook?
And more, not...
He acts like he's kidding. I don't think he is.
More importantly, not where's the checkbook, but how much is in that checkbook, right?
Yep. And is the guy here to sign it?
Yes, and is the guy here.
But I mean, really, the important question to ask is yeah, after you say, hi, I'm Sean with Harper Brush, I wanted to stop by today to show you our cleaning products and show you how we can save you some time. Is that okay? Then the next step is, hey, have you ever heard of Harper Brush?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, and for us that sell right here locally, I mean, Ron and myself and Rick, I mean, a lot of people have heard of Harper.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good, but in a lot of areas like where Al's going to be, a lot of them have not. And of course, that's your lead-in. Well, can I take a minute to tell you about the company? And then when I do that, then of course I just lead right in with a 2-minute pitch on the product. But so I always try to lead with the same questions.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
then as you get into it, then of course you just kind of feel your way through it, I guess. And I don't know if that's really trainable to a degree.
Well, part of it is and part of it isn't. I mean, part of learning how to ask good questions is based on the experience you bring to the table, the fact that you've done it before. So you know what questions to ask when you're at a detail shop or when you're a grain elevator. You kind of know what questions to ask. But the main thing is to understand that you ask open-ended questions when you want people to talk more, and we're going to talk about this later, and you ask closed questions when you want to limit discussion. And the best way to get people talking more and more is to ask open questions. What's been your experience? What's the toughest cleaning problem you have? And that just gets them talking. And if they don't have a whole lot on their agenda, then your job is to start probing by demonstrating different things that you've done in the past and ask them, does that ring a bell with you? Does that seem similar to your experience? How do you respond to that? But the main thing is to, anytime you think you should talk, think about ways to turn that statement into a question to get the other person doing most of the talking. What other things hit you on that list as far as questions or areas of focus we're going to have today?
To me, it's the referrals. That's what really hits me because, I mean, that's such a real tribute to yourself and to your product when this guy is taking an extra 10 or 15 minutes and saying, giving you some names of people to go see.
Yes.
To me,
That-
it's identifying the decision makers.
Yeah, especially when you're new, that's going to be a
You
challenge.
stand there and talk to some guy for 15 minutes, and then you find out the guy, he may not even work there.
Yeah.
You don't know it at the time.
Yep.
Right, he's a truck driver just unloading a load, you know, and he's, yeah.
Good, he needs a wash brush and a stack brush.
There you go. Let me go back to referrals just for a second. Referrals are jet fuel. Referrals are putting premium unleaded in your vehicle. You can grow a business so rapidly if you seek out and are able to be successful at soliciting referrals from your customer base. And Sean has developed that to an art form, and when we talk about that later, he'll show you the way he does it. And as far as identifying decision makers, we're going to speak to this later, but the main thing is you need the person or persons who together have three attributes. They have to have the need, right, that there's a need for the product that you're selling. They have to have the authority to say yes. If you ask the question, would you buy this, they can say yes or no. And they need to have money. They need to be able to spend the company's funds on the products you're representing to them. So our job as salespeople is simply to find out what person or group of people, either individually or collectively, bring us those people that have the need, the authority, and the money. So we'll talk about that later, but that's the quick and easy answer to that. Any other questions or comments about this list that we've come up with for you?
I'd like to make a comment if there's no more questions.
You go right ahead.
I had the privilege, and Al and I and Sean got to talk about this earlier this week, but some time ago to attend a training class of Daimler Chrysler Corporation. And it was fascinating because we learned that day that 75% of the homeowners, the husband and wife that got in their car to drive to the dealership, went already with the intention of purchasing a brand new vehicle. The closing rate at a dealership nationwide is 25%. That means that 50% of the people walked away either because you talked them out of the sale, or they didn't like you, or you didn't present the products right, or you didn't find them what they were needing. Most of the time, though, it got down to 80% of that reason was they didn't ask for the order. And I also had the privilege one time, several years ago, being a professional closer in an undeveloped real estate. I didn't get there overnight. It took 5-6 years. But it was so fascinating because I got 50% of the commission of the salesman that couldn't close the sale if I could close it. And it got to be it was a real challenge, and it was a lot of fun. And sometimes it was as simple as they'd bring the people in, they'd sit them down in my office. I've been with Mr. and Mrs. Riley here. I've shown them, where the golf course is going to be. I've shown them where the lake's going to be. We've looked at lot so-and-so, and it was as simple as, and did you like that particular view of that property? Can you see your vacation home or permanent home there? Oh, yeah. Would you like to own that piece of property? Yeah. Okay, we'd start writing it up. And the salesman's mouth would fall open, and when they left, he'd go, I don't get it, I spent 3 hours with him. He didn't ask. And it's that simple with a broom. You gotta ask. I mean, so it's just a point that,
Yeah.
and Chrysler and Ford spent billions of dollars to figure out that the salespeople are driving customers away.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Why? Because it's that whole thing about we think in sales, selling is telling. And we abuse the customer's attention span all the time by telling 10 things when all they wanted to know was one. They'll say, well, is that wood on that broom? And we'll launch into the history of wood. Hardwood, softwood, we'll talk about maple and where we get the maple, and all they want to know, is it wood or is it some type of composite material?
Simple yes.
Yeah, it's wood. You have any questions about the wood? It's a good point. And 90% of your job, I think it's more than 80, I think it's 90% of the job, is learning how to ask questions. Whether it's the obligating question, would you like to buy it? Or can you tell me about your particular needs? What type of problems are you having? What can I show you today that can help you get the right product? All that asking the questions instead of feeling compelled to talk all the time. Good point. Any other things on this particular model before we get into it in great depth and detail? Okay. Let's look at page 15. There's a lot of verbiage in here. As you can see, this section starts on page 14 and runs for, 50 up through page 55. So it's about 40 pages of information. The reason I created it this way is that some of the things you might want to refer back to later, the information will be written down for you. Some of the interactive exercises, there will be blank pages we can work on together. So it's a kind of a combination of the reading that you can do on your own to stimulate you intellectually, and then the experiential things that we're going to do together as a group, as a team. So it says in the middle of page 15 that sales is all about filling the pipeline. And anybody who's been in sales long enough will know that when your pipeline dries out, when there's not enough stuff coming into the top, it makes it real hard to have customers and revenue flow out the bottom. And that's something that, when people ask me all the time, why do salespeople fail? And the answer is there's 3 major reasons that salespeople fail. This was the topic of my radio show yesterday on KMCD, actually. The first is they have a crisis in their belief system, where when they face a price objection, or someone says, I can get that cheaper, or they don't really understand what we're offering in the marketplace, they chip away at our belief system. They say, $40 for a push broom, what are you, crazy? And we get back to the vehicle and we say, well, maybe I am crazy. Maybe I should sell for 20 or 22. So there's all these people that are trying to chip away at your belief system. And the major reason salespeople fail, it's back to that attitude page I showed you before. They lack confidence, they have a crisis in belief, they're not excited, they're not enthusiastic, they're not willing to learn new ideas, and so they just basically, it's a downward spiral. The second reason salespeople fail is they don't ask enough obligating questions. They become what I call professional visitors. They demonstrate the broom, they show them how great it is, they talk about the applications, they prove to the customer it's going to save time, but then they don't ask, would you like to buy one of these? They just keep talking, they keep presenting, and they forget that salespeople get paid to ask obligating questions. The third reason salespeople fail is they don't have enough prospects. They don't have enough prospects. And what happens is, let's say you have a mature business. You've been doing it for a long time. You've got a lot of customers, but then stuff happens. Somebody retires, somebody goes out of business, somebody's brother starts to work for Joe's janitorial supply, and if you haven't been out there prospecting for new business, you find you used to be able to have a pretty good business, all of a sudden it's in the tank. And you don't have the energy to go out there and rebuild that business from scratch, so therefore you fail. So my job is to tell you and teach you and persuade you and convince you that the best way to go about having a successful long-term business is to always be filling the pipeline. Always, always, always. For the last 6 or 7 months, actually since the 4th week, that last week in September, I've been as busy as I've ever been in my career. I'm just always on the road, going here, there, and everywhere. And in spite of that, I am prospecting constantly. Why? Because I want that funnel to be filled 2 and 3 years from now. How many of us would, no matter what business we've been in, have found a dry funnel and had to overcome all that inertia to rebuild it again? How many? It's not fun, is it?
I found a dry funnel and closed my business up.
There you go. Well, that's about the worst that it could possibly be. And so the whole thing is that we have to always be looking for good prospects. And that's why I want to talk about that matrix that's on the bottom of page 15. There's basically 4 ways of looking at your business. And it's amazing to me how many times I get calls from people. One of my clients is Western Union, you know, the mailgram people. And I got a call from Western Union about 4 or 5 years ago, it must have been. The 96, so, oh my God, 6 years. Boy, I'm getting old so fast. And the guy called me up from a Barnes & Noble bookstore. He said, Warren, I'm Doug Makovic. You've never met me. I'm standing in the Barnes & Noble bookstore in Paramus, New Jersey, on page 22 of your book. And I've never seen anything quite like that. Can you come to our national sales meeting in San Diego and teach our people that matrix? And I said, sure, Doug. And it's amazing how many calls I get from people who have never seen anything like this before. It's a really interesting way of looking at your business. And so you already have your matrix there. I'm just going to put it up here. There are only 2 types of products, and there are 2 types of people. So products and people. By the way, if you see Maxine in the hallway, give her a big thank you for coordinating this training manual, because we all gave her notes, Sean's notes, Warren's notes, Jerry's notes, and we noted her to death, basically. And she had, I don't know how many files open on her computer, and then she organized all this information for us. So she did a great job, and it's real important that you tell her that when you see her. And we'll see her today, right? She's probably going to bring the lunch in at noon. Okay, so there's only, the reason I mention it now is because when I gave her this form, it looked terrible. And this is the first time I've seen it. It looks really good. Only 2 types of products. There are old or current products, new or potential products. There's only 2 types of people. Old people, not like gray hair, but mean they're current customers. New people are prospects, right? So those are the categories. Now, the easiest way to make sure your business is going to be successful, I'm talking about ease and importance, is to spend time in which quadrant, do you think?
New ones.
No, that's hard. Easy. Easiest way to make sure you're old, right? It's the easiest place to spend your time. It's called quadrant 1. It's called the retention quadrant, where your job is to go out there and retain that business you have. And Al, you don't have any business, so you don't have a quadrant 1. So you have to build it. And when you came into business 3 years ago, there was no quadrant 1. You had to start, and the rest of you had to start there somewhere, someday. But as soon as you have a customer, you spend as much time as you can in the retention quadrant. In my view, up to 50% of your time should be spent talking to your current customers, retaining the business you have. So for example, if you go back 3 years ago when I was speaking, or maybe 2.5 years ago, I was speaking at Toastmasters here locally, helping them build their membership base. And so I decided to give a sales seminar that they would broadcast on FPAC and get people to be involved and come to Toastmasters and all that. FPAC is Fairfield Public Access, right? FPAC. Anyway, it just so happened I had met Sean. Sean was new to town, new to Toastmasters, and I said, Sean, you can invite anybody you want. And they just so happened that Harper was having a class that week, and so whatever that was, Tuesday night, there were about 100 people in the room, 8 or 10 of whom were all Harper people. Barry Harper, Jerry, were you there?
Yes.
Yeah, Jim Nairn was there, Sean was there, and a whole bunch of people, and that was their first opportunity to take a look at me. Well, then the next step was for me to keep following up in the retention quadrant, even though that was free that night. They didn't have to pay to come. And then I started talking to Sean and Maxine about being a presenter, and that was October of last year. I had a chance to spend 45 minutes with you folks, the distributors here in this room. So now that became a focus for me. Now you're a current customer. So why do you keep in touch with your current customers? Because people buy from people who they like and trust. And once you have that relationship, you got to keep going back over and over and over again and make sure that company or that customer is happy with the current product or service. It's so important to keep in touch with those current customers. And so many times we neglect our customer base. It just blows me away. You know, my customers hire me to interview the customers that used to buy that don't anymore. And I think, okay, they screwed up, they sweared at them, they sent the wrong product, they started raising their prices 20% a month, they didn't send out the bill in time, and then they harassed them to pay a bill that they never got. I have all these nightmare situations. What do you think happens when I call these people up and say, why'd you change? But it happens all the time. Didn't seem like they cared about me. They stopped calling on me. They took me for granted. All this fundamental stuff that we all know we should not be victim of in sales. We all fall into the same patterns and the same habits. So if you're going to focus on those A's and B's, like I showed you before on this chart, if you're going to focus on those A and B prospects and A and B accounts, then you become a true partner, and you really start calling those people to get to know more and more about them, and they get to know more and more about you. It's 9 times harder to open a new account than it is to go out and call on a current customer. So don't forget that that's where the bread is buttered. It's that current customer base. Okay, now we say, but I need more business than that. That's only going to get me so far. I need more business. What can I do next? So where do you think the easiest way to grow your business is now? Pardon me?
Old customers.
That's right. You've got it. Old customers, new products. That's what I call the growth quadrant. The growth quadrant. And I suggest you spend about 20% of your time there. That's why, by the way, we've helped you with this form that we've created in this book, showing you over time what you're doing and how to introduce more and more new products. This is the easiest way you can grow your business double digits every single year if you just keep going back to your current customer base and ask them, what else? What else do you need from me? Or you show them new ideas. You say, a lot of my customers who buy this also buy that. And you basically start suggesting add-ons that they can have in their business. Or you show up and you invite them back to the truck because you got to give them a free nail brush, and they look around, they see all kinds of things that they need. The fact is that the growth quadrant is so easy to focus on, but so many times we go in there with our list of the things they bought the last time and we become order takers. We just check their inventory, see what they need, and you'd say, well, that's what we have catalogs for. That's what we have flyers for, and the answer is nonsense. If they bought a squeegee from you, who do they think you are? They think you're the squeegee guy. If they bought a push broom from you, they think you're the push broom guy. So our job is to constantly be making their awareness grow about our company, and the way you do that is by working in this growth quadrant. Okay? All right, so you get your growth quadrant going, but that's still not enough business. You need more. So what's the next easiest place to prospect?
Referral.
That's right. Give that man a cigar. Referrals, and that's why quadrant 3 is the referral quadrant. You go out to new people that don't know you, and you introduce some really cool products, our bread and butter items, the things we're really, really good at. And the best way to do that is not call on perfect strangers, even though that's okay, as Sean has proved, right? Going out there and having one-call closes all over Iowa and other states, right? The main reason I call this the referral quadrant is that if you get to the end of a discussion with a current customer, and if this is the what else quadrant, this is a new thought I've been talking about lately. If this is the what else quadrant, this is the what? What do you think this is? If that's the what else quadrant, what do you think this quadrant will be called?
Who else?
The who else quadrant. That's right, Sean. The who else quadrant. So I say you spend about 20% of your time asking your current customers for referrals. And if they like you and they trust you and they know the products are really good, they can't wait to refer you because that makes them look good. That's the referral quadrant, about 20% of your time. Now you've got 3 really good fundamental ways to grow your business. There is a 4th quadrant. That's saying go out and talk to brand new people and offer them brand new products. By the way, Al, you're going to be spending a lot of time in quadrant 4 when you get down to Florida. Unless we have some way that we've done telemarketing in advance for you, and have they hooked you up? Have they talked to you about how to do that? Okay. This is the quadrant that I call the trailblazing quadrant. I also call it the pioneering quadrant. Today I'm calling it the trailblazing quadrant. And as an organization, you really only need to spend about 10% of your time there. But depending on where your business is in terms of maturity, sometimes you need to spend more time in that quadrant. If you're in a new territory like Al is, for example, or when Sean goes up and opens new territories with new distributors, he spends maybe 100% of his time in quadrant 4. The point here is the reason it's called the trailblazing or the pioneering quadrant is to remind you of what happened when we settled this great country of ours from east to west. What happened to a lot of those pioneers as they headed out west?
They were trailblazers.
They were trailblazers. What happened to so many of the pioneers? Think about it. Back in the 1800s, 1700s, the wagon trains heading out west, what happened? They didn't make it. That's right, Ron. They got slaughtered on the way out there. Dysentery, famine, the wagon rolled over on them. They got attacked by tribes of Native Americans, whatever.
They're alligators.
They're alligators, right? Or they drowned in the rivers, or they ran out of food, or they couldn't, they couldn't find any buffalo to kill, to eat, or whatever. So a lot of people didn't make it. And so I'm not saying that to depress you, but what I am saying is understand if your business starts out in quadrant 4, if the owner of your company said, oh, I want you to come in business with me, go get them, right? Early on in that career, you faced a lot of rejection, didn't you, right? He's going out calling on the customers he's been calling on for 7 or 8 years, coming back with $900, $800, $700 orders. You're coming back with bruises on your arms, and your shoes are all worn out, and you're kind of hunched over, and you can barely make it back to your desk. He's saying, what's the matter with you? I sold $1,000 worth of brushes today. What'd you do? Well, I gave away some nail brushes. So we have to recognize this is going to be a highly competitive and rejection-oriented quadrant till we get established, right? Till we can use that persistence and attitude and belief system to build that business, we're going to face a lot of rejection in the short run. It's part of what happens in sales. It's okay. It's okay. But let me tell you something about this unique opportunity you have. It's not like the person selling who knows what, leasing services, cars, flooring, office equipment, consulting services. Your ratio of cold call to order is probably more dramatically positive than any business I've ever worked in before. Sean's opportunity to go out there and use the techniques that you're going to learn today to get really, literally 60, 70% of the people to place an order on the spot the first time is remarkable. It is absolutely remarkable. So even if you're half as good as what Sean can do now, that still means that 35 to 40% of the time you can get an order on the very first call. How many other businesses do you know that are like that? I can't think of any. I can't think of any. Now on a referral, my closing ratio is in upper 80s. You know, if somebody refers me into a new person so it's not that cold call, about 80% of the people that I work with on the phone or face-to-face, depending on what city I'm in, they become clients on the first call when I'm out there. But you know, I've got credentials, I've got a best-selling book and all that, so it's a little different. But generally speaking, you know, if you're working in this quadrant and you apply the principles that Sean and I and Jerry and others have put together, you can really make this trailblazing quadrant sing and not face the rejection that so many other people face. Any questions about this? Okay, turn the page. We're going to talk about, you can move on to page, the thing on page 16 is just what I told you in writing. If you look at page 17, I want to talk about these categories and who are the best products and what are the best products for you to offer to these particular types of prospects. How much of this did you go over during the week as far as here's an auto detail shop, here's the types of things they buy? How much of that product knowledge did you go over this week already?
Only with Al.
Only with Al. Okay, so I think it's a good idea to review that. Let's pick one category that's going to be the most common for all of us. So whether it's automotive, agriculture, contractors, factories, municipalities, miscellaneous. Well, let's not pick miscellaneous. Let's agree as a group to pick one category of prospects. So somebody help me out here.
Automotive's good.
Automotive's good for everybody? True?
Should be.
Yep. Brian, you too? All right. Okay, Sean, tell us why, when you organized this forum, you and Jerry put this together, those items that we're seeing there, the push room, squeegee uprights, how'd you go about that? Why'd you suggest those products for those dealers, for those prospects?
Well, the 25 series, we all know, is real good for body shops.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we picked that. The 94 is great for in the parking lots or if there's, that's really the best used broom for that. The 74 is good on the shop floors, as is the 61 or the 57.
Can you do us all a favor?
Yeah.
Since reinforcement's always really good, and especially for Al's benefit, being brand new, point. 25 series. That's good for body shops. Why?
Gets the fine dust, it's got good resiliency, it's longer fiber trim, keeps the dust out in front.
Okay, so that's the 25 series, and that'd be really good for a body shop for fine dust. 94 series.
Real stiff,
Mm-hmm.
great for out in the parking lots. A lot of your better body shops, they like to sweep that parking lot once a week.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys miss that, but you know, it's something that, hey, they got a high school kid, he comes in on Saturdays, sweep the parking lot.
Yeah, good
for 'em.
point. The 74 series. What's that good for?
That is more for a rougher floor,
Mm-hmm.
maybe an automotive transmission shop, place like that. Oil resistant, it'll get in. If it's a pitted floor, it'll dig the stuff up out of the pits.
Mm-hmm.
Good sweeping action, sweep, release,
Mm-hmm.
good room.
Cool. So you all need to know all this stuff when you're calling out there. Brian, this all makes sense to you? You've said this before, you know all that. Okay. 61 series.
The 61 would be more of it's a border brush. We all know that, but it more, you know, this is going to get the heavier debris, this getting the finer dust. Again, oil resistant. If the guys were sweeping up a lot of oil dry, they tend to like this broom a little bit better.
Okay, great. So the main point here is that when we go into an auto shop, body shop, detail, or whatever, garage, we need to be able to know in our mind what are the best products for this particular person. And again, because people buy from people they like and trust, and the base of that first triangle is product knowledge, it's real important to know what to lead with at all these different types of opportunities you're going to run into. And by the quality of how you approach them and what you show them and the questions you ask, that rapport is going to grow very dramatically with those people. Now think about turning those types of things into questions. If you're at a detail shop and you know they're going to have, not detail, but a body shop, now what are they going to have laying around on the floor? What do they need? What do you need to sweep at a body shop?
Bondo dust.
Bondo dust.
Yeah.
So when you go in there and you say, the reason I want to show you this 25 series broom is because in our experience, when we call in a lot of body shops, you've got the Bondo dust everywhere. Instead of getting it up in the air, you want it to be able to be swept away in the appropriate manner. That's why we recommend this brush. I'm sorry, this broom. And then you say, now tell me, what kind of stuff do you have out in your parking lot? Or whatever, you know, in the major area where you got all kinds of crap laying around. What's out there? And they'll tell you blah, blah, and blah. Well, that's why we recommend that. So the whole idea here is to understand who are your best prospects, and we've listed them in terms of automotive. We've given you some ideas. And then, what are the products you're going to show to that person to increase your chances to make that sale, whether it's on the first call or the 50th call? Now, strategically, when you're building your business, you can either go through the yellow pages or go to, how many people want to talk about what are the best resources or where are the best resources to be able to find out where you're going to find all the record companies and all the tire shops and all the repair garages? Does everybody know how to do all that? Or do you need help in that?
Basically, you got to go to the yellow pages, wouldn't you?
There's Yellow Pages is one of the great resources in every metropolitan area. In every state, actually, they have what's called a business directory, the Iowa Business Directory, the Minnesota Business Directory, the Florida Business Directory. You go into any library and they will have that directory on hand. And then it's further broken down by zip code, right? So it's state, it's zip code, and then within zip code, it's SIC code. So it's state, zip code, SIC code. So you can, whatever, what's the zip code for Sarasota?
34203.
34203. So you can go to the library, ask the business librarian for the business directory for Florida, go into the Sarasota zip code, and then see these businesses sorted by SIC code. So you might find out that in that particular zip code, there's not a whole lot of automotive going on. Why? Because maybe that's where all the hotels are, right? and they don't probably mix body shops in with, you know, 5-star hotels and condominiums. So now you say, okay, well, great. Then if I don't want to go sell automotive products today, what about other ones? Maybe they're a good, maybe they're a good category for miscellaneous: restaurants, nursing home, hospital, homeowners. Anyway, the point here is that you can figure out the best way to go into your territories by using directories that are available in your public libraries. The best directory of all is called the ABI, the American Business Information Directory. The ABI used to be called Contacts Influential, but now they've changed the name. It's the ABI directory. You could buy the book for Miami for $500 a year, or you can go to the library and use it for free. And what they have, you know, you've heard of SMSA, Standard Metropolitan Statistical Area. That's the way the government kind of clusters all the different urban, suburban, and rural areas. So they know what all the SMSA areas are, and they've organized their directory by SMSA. So for Iowa, for example, there might be one ABI for the whole state of Iowa, because there's only 2.5 million people in the whole state. But for Florida, there might be 2 for Miami, 1 for Fort Lauderdale, 1 for Tampa, 1 for Sarasota, Fort Myers, and Naples. And depending on how many businesses are clustered together, the ABI directory breaks it down by SIC code, by zip code, by number of employees, and by annual sales. So for example, if you're calling on contractors and you know that a general contractor spends 2% of its budget per year on the consumable type things that we sell, and we have a $100 million general contractor, that means they spent about $200,000 last year on our products. So would that be an A prospect?
Sure would.
You bet.
And we have invested in the software or whatever to have access to SIC codes, so we could actually, who's doing it now?
Jeff
Jeff does it.
Right.
He can sort, if you want a list of all the body shops in your area, we can certainly sort that and get it to you.
Right.
You can go follow up on it.
Cool. And we provide that as a service to our distributors, that's right? Or they pay for
I
that?
don't know, is there a charge for it?
Right now, there is depending on which way it sorts. If they just want a name, I think we can do it for free. If they want name, or the company, if they want addresses, employees, and more information, then we charge so
Okay.
much per name.
Yeah, and it's highly inexpensive.
Yeah.
It's like 10 cents a name, or yeah, something like that. So the point here is that the main decision you're going to make in the sales process, this model that we've created here and talk about, the one that starts on page 14, the major decision you're going to make is who are your best prospects. You really need to focus your energy on those A and B potential customers and current customers. All the other ones, the C's, you really have to neglect them in order to make your business really take off and grow quickly. You really need to have the discipline to stay away from those C accounts. And the best way to do that is to truly focus on niches. And so we've got for you several of them: the automotive niche, the agricultural niche, the contractors niche, the factories, the municipalities. This is the way we really want you to think about your business. And so if there aren't that many factories in Southwest Florida, right, in the Sarasota, Bradenton area, it's basically tourist type, right? It's not, you're not going to have General Motors have a big car plant in Bradenton. They couldn't afford the real estate. But that might mean that there's more hospitality and more restaurants and those types of things that need push brooms. So everybody's market is a little bit different. We wanted to give you the fundamentals here so you can see what's the best way to slice and dice those markets. Any questions about that?
If I could just interject for a second.
Yep.
Bear in mind that they are recommendations, and that's based on talking to, all distributors and the 4 people that were on the committee. When Warren would get on the phone and we talk about products, you certainly can go out and find that maybe a body shop would need a different product. So this is just to get you kick-started so that when you walk in, you're not just, you're not, if you're not like Al, in this instance, he just isn't familiar with anything yet. A lot of the rest of you have already been out there and have realized that, yeah, I mean, the 25 does this and the 61 does that, and I can make this call and that call. But as I shared, and I'll just take a brief moment, but I shared with Al earlier and Sean when we were doing the product knowledge thing, that it's, even when you think you have it down to a science, we had two, a distributor in South Dakota and a distributor in northern Iowa, both excellent distributors, both going after the same customer. They were trailer manufacturers, 18-wheelers. Both of them had huge warehouses to sweep and to clean. And when they finally got down to it, they had the same type of floors, they had the same type of debris they were sweeping up, but one of the customers picked our 51, and the other customer picked our 67. But, so, and I wouldn't have recommended either one. So, that's, the point is that even though they're doing the same identical project, or the same sweeping categories, the best thing to do is take the product in and let them use it. And you can't go wrong. If you take the 57 and the 74 in first, or the 25, those three products, take those in first. If it's a fine sweep floor, bingo. I mean, it's gonna be a home run. If it's a medium to coarse floor, if they sweep with the 74 or the 57, 99% of the time, it's gonna be what they need. Then you start refining it down to, you know, is it a body shop that has welding, hot welding stuff, and then you know that we have the products with the wire centers and the Tampico that won't burn up and all that stuff. But, so even though these are recommendations, and you can't go wrong with them, but bear in mind that they're not cast in concrete. You can find new products for them. So.
Correct. We wanted to give you the fundamentals to lead with, but by asking questions and talking to customers, they may take you in a different direction. We just want you to have the grounded product knowledge that goes with these particular categories of customers. Okay. So now what I want you to do is have an interactive discussion with each other, and let's hook the two Iowa guys up together so you become a team. Let's have Jerry work with Al because you're brand new, and let's have Brian work with Sean, and then Kelly and Barry, you can float, do whatever you want. And what I want you to do now is take out a blank piece of paper and look at these categories we've created: automotive, agriculture, contractors, factories, municipalities, and then put together what I would call the strategic prospecting plan by talking to each other about where you want to focus your energy in your market. And then the first thing I want you to do is talk about categories. And if you want to talk about current customers that you already have, or prospects you've identified who already fit those categories, or where would you go to get the resources to fill in the holes, that's what I want you to come up with. So at the end of this interactive discussion that should probably take about 15 minutes or so, every single person has a list of who their best prospects are in their geographic area, okay? So Sean, you work with Brian, and Ron, you work with Rick, Jerry, you work with Al. Take out a blank piece of paper, look at these lists on page 17, 18, 19, look at the prospecting matrix I've got on the board behind me, and come up with your own prospecting game plan for what your business is going to look like when you get back in your territory next week, okay? I wanted to have you folks focus on prospecting to think about your business in new ways. And those of you who are experienced, you'll maybe come up with a different line that you want to start, not line, a different area that you want to start focusing your business on. And those of you who are new, this is a way for you to refocus and redevelop your prospecting efforts on the types of people that can bring us and bring you the most business. And the reason this is so important is, back to a thought we mentioned earlier, it's a theme I'm going to keep coming back to, and that is, we not only are in the business of saving other people time, time is the only commodity we really have to share with our customer and prospect base. And if we're spinning our wheels with low priority prospects just because we don't have a plan to be in front of the people we really need to see, then we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Therefore, what the Iowa group, what were you all talking about in terms of this exercise? Tell us some of the things that you learned from each other.
Car dealers, and sometimes you need to make more than one call at them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have a body shop. The service manager may buy for one area, and also the parts manager might buy for the detail shop.
Mm-hmm.
So you might make 3 stops instead of 1.
Mm-hmm. At the same dealership, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a tremendous referral opportunity in a car dealer, I agree with you. And do you both have a lot of car dealers that you're already selling to in your various markets?
Not as many as I should be.
Okay, so that's something you learned from Ron then.
Yeah, one day I rode with Rob Whetstone a couple of years ago down there. He had a lot of car dealerships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
right.
what he did. He hit the body shop and the detail.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Ron, what'd you learn?
Well, we was talking about since this 9/11 thing, they've got the municipalities locked up so tight, it makes it really tough to call on the guys at the water department and the sewer department stuff.
That's true.
You can't get to the guy that you need to see. However, usually the street department isn't so bad.
Okay.
And if you go see them at 7 o'clock in the morning when everybody starts, usually you can get in there and then you can ask him, hey, is there somebody over at the water department or whatever that might want something? They maybe even get on the phone, call him and ask him if there's anything he needs.
Yes.
So that could give you an in to get to other departments from one place that's easy to get to.
There you go. It's a great idea. And so there is a great tip for making that call in the municipality a more profitable call for you.
Yeah.
And the people that you can't just knock on the door and go in and see, now what you need to do is call them on the phone, get an appointment, and then the person at the gate has your name on the list, and then you're approved to get in there. Actually, it'll keep the riffraff out. It'll keep the salespeople who aren't working smart out, and maybe they abandon that market for a while, so that's really an opportunity for us to exploit that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was down in Dallas last week, and they have military vehicles at every entrance point for their municipal water treatment plant. And I've been driving by that facility for years because it's between the hotel and the place I do sales training. So I've been by that water plant, dozens of times, maybe 100 times. And now they've got it, ever since September 11th, they've got security at every single entrance point. You got a Dallas police officer, a National Guard truck, and a rent-a-cop, all three of them on every single gate. It's just amazing. So yeah, you're not going to make too many cold calls on that municipal plant. Can you imagine showing up with a big truck? Yeah, I want to go in there and talk to them about some new products I have. Oh, really? Yeah, so those are definitely prospect by appointment now. Okay, what were you guys talking about, Brian and Sean?
We were talking about stores and potato chips.
Well, then we're going to make you do that exercise again.
So, but
Brian's gonna make a stop there and try to
Yeah,
sell him when he gets the game.
there you go.
and we talked, and Brian's got a lot of factories in his area, and we talked about warehousing in particular, because it's just such a huge place for warehouses. And we talked about the 2336 would be a good leading item. And funny enough, you guys have been Harper distributors for what, 10 years? I think so. And they don't have any sample 94s, so we just got those ordered. It's going to take one back and maybe two if we've got two. So.
Now, Brian also told a story about Home Depot that isn't really on this subject, but I think it's important. Tell us your Home Depot story.
Oh, we just had 4 open up, and I've never been in one. I walked in there and thumbed down through the aisles, and I ran into Harper brush. That kind of scared me. So I ran back to the office real quick. Hey, have you guys been in the Home Depot yet? Yeah, have you seen the Harper brush? He says, yes, I have seen that. Are you worried about it? No, I'm not worried about it at all. I thought it would hurt us. It's really helped us. He had mentioned name recognition. It's got now a lot of, we've got customers that'll go to a Walmart or a Sam's Club and buy batteries. And then they get our pricing on batteries and we get to sell them batteries. Then all of a sudden, they go to Home Depot and they're buying stuff there, they see Harper brush. We have Harper brush, we can sell it to them. We've gotten business from it already just on repair, replacing a bracket or a handle. It got ran over by towing. So I guess there's really nothing to be scared of a big box.
No. It's great for the independent distributor. I mean, it sounds like twisted logic. You say, now wait a minute, how do you compete with the big boxes? You compete with big boxes. This is a perfect example. How many SKUs is Home Depot going to carry from our company? 1,000?
Push brooms about 4.
Right, and they're going to have 4 SKUs of push brooms. Somebody's going to go in there and they'll say, Harper, hey, this feels like a really solid, well-made piece of equipment, but then they don't know that there are how many different types. There's several hundred different types that would fit their application better. So Home Depot, by allowing us to basically rent space from them, we're putting our display up with our name, that's creating name recognition for us, which will actually enhance your business. As bizarre as that sounds, it's an absolute fact. Now, if you try and go head-to-head with them on super glue, you're going to lose every time, because they can sell super glue cheaper than you can buy it. But on all these items that aren't their 4 SKUs, you've got broad depth and you've got expertise that they're going to go for. So thank you, Home Depot, for taking on our line. Yeah.
I explained it to a gentleman this last week that said, hey, I was over to Home Depot and I noticed they got Harper prices. I said, yes. I says, so does Sears sell Goodyear tires, but you don't buy the same Goodyear tires from a Sears store that you get from a Goodyear dealer.
There you go.
He says, point well taken.
That's right. Yeah, and so, yeah, if you're going to try and go head-to-head on one of the 4 SKUs, you're going to run into a price battle. But what you want to do is leverage the name and then show them the specific product that works best for their application. That was a very interesting comment. I've heard that over and over again from people. If you know how to compete against the big boxes, the Walmarts and the Home Depots, you can very effectively compete as a small business. In fact, a lot of times when a Home Depot opens and you've got a really well-positioned hardware store, their business actually goes up. Because if you go into Home Depot and you're trying to do a weekend do-it-yourself project, they've only got maybe 40% of what you need, and the hardware store has the other 60%, which, by the way, is at much higher margins because it's the less quick-moving items. So if you well position yourself as a hardware store, you can actually grow your business when Home Depot comes to town. But if you try and go head-to-head with them on a skill drill, you're going to get killed. You ever going to say something, Barry?
Yeah, I can't remember what distributor told me this. They have been in a situation where they've seen a pickup truck going down the highway with a Harper broom in it, and they knew they hadn't sold the company, but they would take down the phone number or the name of the company and then go make a call because the guy had bought it at Home Depot.
There you go.
But there were other products that they could have sold him. Whether it was a small scrub brush. Or
That's right. That's a great idea. And our brooms are distinctive. They're the only ones you could really look in someone's truck and know it's our broom. You couldn't tell that about a shovel, or you couldn't tell that about an extension ladder, but if you look at a broom, you know it's our broom. That's a very good point.
I seen a Harper broom on television the other day.
You did?
At a manufactured home show.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a guy sweeping out ahead of this new home that they was moving down the assembly line with a red-handed Harper broom.
There you go. Good job.
And we're 13 years into selling retail, and we have not lost any distributors over that fact.
That's
If
right.
anything, they've gained sales.
Mhm.
And we've got a lot of distributors out there that they're increasing their volume every year over what they did a year ago. So it isn't like you said, at first, yeah, everybody, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? Well, you know, and the same thing, if hardware stores, they're not going broke, they're not going out of business, and yet, like you said, they're surviving. It's
Yeah.
just, it's working smart, and knowing your competition, and then knowing how to sell against it. And we can help you in those areas too, so don't hesitate to call us. You know, if it becomes an issue, we probably can help you get through it.
That's right.
Like you said, you can go back and service it. And a lot of our guys, like Ben Reimer up in Canada, he simply started out when Home Depot showed up there. He simply said, I will sell you the same way, in the same price, if you will buy from me the same way. Come to my shop. Well, it's 80 miles away. There you go. You drive to Home Depot, don't you? Yeah. Well, then you drive to my place and I'll match their price.
Mm-hmm.
But you won't get the same service.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. And then they go through the whole spiel about, you know, why it's costing you time and money to send a guy over there.
Mhm.
So there's all kinds of ways to overcome the objections and get the sale.
That's right. And it comes back to having a strong belief system and not running away from the objection. Okay, let's find out what Al was talking about, Jerry, and then we're going to take our lunch break. So.
Well, Jerry was pointing out to me that I should spend my first part of my time going to see all the customers we do have.
Absolutely.
We have 40 existing customers. So going to see the
Quadrant 1.
percent portion and evaluate them, find out where we're at, and also to use this inventory sheet to keep track of what we're selling them, what we are doing, and then see what we can expand on. The next thing we decided would be to look at the automotive shops, because there are a lot of dealerships and automotive shops in the area. They're easy to find, and it gives me a greater opportunity. And this third one would be to go to the concrete places, because there are 7 concrete plants in the Manatee, Sarasota area, and 4 in Port Charlotte that I know of. So there's an opportunity, and I watched Sean yesterday and the success that he had selling to these people. And I said, gee whiz, and that should be my third opportunity right there.
Yes. And what Al's just beautifully defined for us is what I call a campaign mentality. And this is the last thing we'll talk about before we break for lunch. If you look at, go beyond the pages where they have the specific products and markets analysis, you look at page 20 in the middle of the page, putting a campaign mentality to use in your business. And what that simply means is we have a goal of doing a certain type of volume or building a certain type of business. You can have a goal in terms of dollars or market share or product mix. There's all different ways to come about this thing called goal. And what I'm suggesting is that you have campaigns, rifle shot campaigns, not shotgun type campaigns. And so look at what Al's just talked about. He's talked about, I have 150 accounts that were opened by the person who preceded me. That then creates a retention and growth campaign for those 150. And now I've got a lot of automotive type stores down in that area, and I'm going to go talk to those auto dealers and get into those various departments. That's my second campaign. And then specific to my area, Sarasota, Bradenton, and Port Charlotte, I've got concrete manufacturers. So now I've got a concrete campaign. And so now all he needs is one more, and that's going to keep him busy for a long, long time. Now, why do you have more than one campaign? What if he just went with auto dealers only?
Pigeonhole yourself.
That's right. And what if it was a flawed strategy? What if auto dealers now do everything that the car manufacturers say, in order for us to warranty the paint, you have to use our broom? I mean, ridiculous, but what if that happened? Well, that would be a flawed campaign. You'd be out of business. So you want to have up to 4 different campaigns, and I've given you examples on page 20 of what some of those campaigns would be, but it's up to you to create those that are specific for your market. You can have industry-specific campaigns, geographic campaigns, who do you know campaigns, referral campaigns, and Al has just laid out very nicely 3 that, hey Max, don't leave yet. We want to acknowledge you in front of the group to thank you for all the work you've done on creating this manual. You were the person that was coordinating all of this work. Maxine was on every phone call. She organized the distributors who were our advisory council. She correspondingly took the notes from Sean and Jerry and I and put them into a cohesive whole that doesn't look like it's just a bunch of parts. Actually, the whole is better than the sum of the parts, thanks to the work that Maxine did, and she also proofed it for us.
Now she's going to feed us.
Now she's going to feed us lunch. Thanks, Maxine. All right, so let's take a break, look at the official clock. We're going to reconvene at 12:30, so that gives us 42 minutes to eat lunch and make phone calls and relax, go outside.